Want to make sure my face is on the re-edited version from now on. That's my only stipulation.
We made it. We made it. We didn't think we would. Some problems there with people not here and then here and dropping out. And but we're back. We're back online. Just a little update. Sean is joining us at 8:30, so we possibly might have been stalling as well, but we're here. That's the main thing. So how's everything, lads?
All right. Plot not as normal. That's normal. just waiting for some, transfer activity to like boost the, everything for everyone. So see what happens. Might happen on this show. You never know.
You might have to wait long, Richie.
Hopefully
I'll go to you, Pete.
Yeah, other than a bit of a cold, bit of man flu kicking in, but other than that, what's not to be excited about? The second coming of the Swedish maverick, Alexander Isaac should be said, is on his way. So I'm over the moon. I've got to be honest. I'm buzzing, and I can tell by so many in the chat. There's the here we goes in there already. I can see. Everybody is buzzing about this signing. Can't wait. Look, boys, how was this for you? Obviously, the deal I think came left field for everybody. Nobody was expecting this. Anybody that said they weren't. But what were your thoughts about when this kind of monster deal kind of just came out the blue?
For me, it was just like shock. Like we've trotted out so many names over the last 12 weeks. Is it now 13 weeks? This is the 13th. Well, it was probably 12 weeks of it, and it's just we've been trying to hit on one for a long time, a big name, and I really didn't think we were going to go over 40 million. It's just every time we seem to bid, they'd go as far as 40 million and then retreat, and on to the next one. And even with Pedro, we thought we got him over the line the other day, but he's still not over the line. So yeah, it was a big shock. And then like the quality, we've been looking at him for a while, but we've been looking at so many, and being only 22, is it 23 in September? One for the future, and you can see how Eddie Howe is just going to mold him. He doesn't need to do as much as he would with someone else, but because he's ready to go. But it's going to get very interesting, and if it wasn't exciting already, it's just gone to another level. And who knows what's around the corner? And that's hopefully what we're going to talk about tonight as well.
Definitely,
Richie.
Do you know what? It's a weird one because as you just said, Daz, it hasn't just been 12. We've done this like really for the last 8 months, really, since we started doing for a little transfer show in January. It was a name that did come up briefly in January, and then obviously we've done shows on it again this summer. We had Sembra Hunter on a couple of weeks ago, and to be fair, the Sembra Hunter one was more about to talk about more people who had been linked with us from the Liga in case they did come. And I think what shocked us most about the Isaac deal was the fact that it's probably one of those where we thought he'd be class, but it's probably one of those ones where you might think, would he come to Newcastle? Sort of thing. Would he see the project that's on show for him, and would Newcastle, go to the potential valuation that was rumoured for him and stuff like that? So I think we thought sort of like not giving up hope it wouldn't happen. I think it was more about the shock, the fact that Newcastle met that evaluation that obviously Sociedad had set for him, and it was happening, and how quick it's happened, and how under the radar. There hadn't been any more leaks about it over the last few days or over the weekend. It's all been Pedro, then bang, Isak deal agreed. He's on his way over. So it's pretty much what 24 to 30 hours since it broke yesterday. The done deal. To me, that's how a deal should be done. It shouldn't be dragged out. It's been all under the radar. It's done and dusted. Hopefully, after the Callum Wilson news today, he should be hopefully registered in time to make his debut at Wolves on Sunday.
Nice one. Just want to say a shout out to a few as well. Roy, thanks a million for the donation, Roy. As always, you're contributing towards the channel, and there's a few more down there. After I scroll down past all the comments, which we'll go back to Jared as well. Thanks for the super sticker. To Ray, thanks for the super sticker, and to A2, thanks a million for your donation as well. That's it for now. Now I have to scroll all the way back up because there's millions of comments. I'm glad I wore my glasses tonight. Where are we going next, Pete?
Well, no, I think we should stick on the Alexander Isak deal just purely because it's going to be a club record transfer, and for me, it had been mooted this summer that we were going to break our transfer record, and it's finally happening. 58 million rising, I think, to 62, 63 million, depending on very different variables. It's a massive deal for him. In your opinions, what do you think? Because before getting to the question, Joe Linton, for example, 40 million. It was very, very obvious when he came through the door that the price tag, and as well as the number 9, played a part in him not hitting the ground running at Newcastle. Do you think, in your opinions, Isak may well feel the same type of pressure, or do you think he's got that mentality about him to not let it affect him?
Yeah, so I imagine he's not going to get the number 9. I imagine Wilson will still hold on to that for this season at least. But yeah, the price tag. No, I think we're at a different level now as well. I think I can't see it affecting him. Okay, he'll have to adjust to a new league, a new country. I wonder, can he speak English already? As I don't never heard an interview. He probably can. An awful lot of Swedes are very good English. So no, I don't think it'll affect him. I think he's at that kind of a level, but who knows, really?
I think it's you look at the compare the Joe Linton transfer to the Isak one. I think what you've got to look at is it's two different eras of when both players joined. You've got Joe Linton, who joined under the Steve Bruce era, and to be fair, the support network with the coaches that you have and the backroom staff is nowhere near the same level as what we've got there now under the new consortium. You look at the amount of times they're looking for different roles. If you're looking for jobs within the club and stuff like that, there's loads coming through. So the infrastructure and the jobs off the pitch is just mind blowing. That the sort of stuff they're bringing in to support the players and everything like that. So I think on that sort of level, I think there's going to be that much support around him to make him settle. Don't forget, he's got an international teammate in Emil Kraft there as well, who I have no doubt will really help him settle in. And to be fair, I think Kraft unfortunately is going to have some time off, so he might be able to take him on a little bit of sightseeing a bit more than what he would have wanted to. That's something we can possibly talk about later after the game last night. But I think he'd be fine. He's played in various different leagues around Europe. He's been in Germany, he's been in Spain. Obviously, would start off in Sweden himself, and he's coming over here now. If it's the rumours are right, which there was on Twitter earlier on about whether it's true or not, that NUFC Bible and Ibrahimovic, whether that's true, if it actually came from Ibrahimovic or not, we don't know. But if he's saying this lad could possibly be the next level of player to compete with him and Henrik Larsson, then all good as far as I'm concerned. But I don't think he'll be an issue. I think there's a lot of leaders in that dressing room now who'll do nothing but help him settle in.
Just a few comments here. I'm getting an awful lot of slagging about why we didn't start late. I was here first, believe it or not. Everyone's slagging out that I do my hair and stuff. And also the other thing people are saying is Sean negotiating his personal. If he was, he'd still be there. He gabbing.
It's not the personal terms. We just can't agree on the add-ons. That's all.
That's the sell-on clause. Yeah.
Yeah, sell-on clause.
Yeah. I'm sure we're going to get into other topics as well tonight. Like, for example, the last night we're talking about Miggy linked to Everton. And then the whole Dubravka to Man United deal popped up, and my own take on that was that give us a 1 million per game, and or else lead them on and just let them down on transfer deadline day. So just anything to piss them off, really. But yeah, it's like an awful lot of my hair.
I don't know. I'll tell you what we'll do. I don't know if anyone saw the Chris Woff tweet earlier on today, and he's wrote an article about it. He's saying that Newcastle are still after a winger and a midfielder after the Isak deal comes through. Do you both lads agree that that's going to be the case? Do you think there still will be another two that come in after Isak?
So you're thinking perhaps Pedro and say Paqueta / Madison type, or
possibly, yeah. But I'm only going off obviously what Chris Wofford brought up earlier on today on Twitter, and obviously in the Athletic, he says the Newcastle still want 3 bringing in. Obviously Isak, looks like Pedro and a other midfielder.
Or a defensive midfielder. That when we've talked about a few of them as well. They could be anywhere, or someone that we haven't talked about at all. Wow, it would be some statement of intent from if we remember back, there's rumors of 50 million transfer budget to start off. That would really have blown that out of the water.
What do you make, Pete? Do you think they'll go for the 3 still?
Chris is in the chat. Chris Hall. Here we know. I've been saying it for a couple of weeks now. For some reason, could be wrong. I just think I've always thought we'd get 3 more players. I think there's still time. I think if there was any question about money being available and being there was talk a couple of weeks ago or even last week that we've only got 20 million to spend. Clearly, we haven't because we've gone out and spent the best part of 58 million. Now, of course, we haven't spent 58 million because we've not put the whole lot of money in there. But I'm not being funny. If we're agreeing a 58 million pound deal with Real Sociedad, I don't expect Real Sociedad to say, 58 million, but we'll just have the 8 million for now. They're going to want a sizable fee up front. So the fact that we've been able to agree that deal says a lot. I don't think the business is over. We can talk about players all day long, and there's lots of players clearly that we could be going for. But I do think there'll be another type of midfielder come through the door, maybe 2. We'll see. But it's clear that they wanted 2 positions. First of all, they wanted a striker to come in for Wilson. We see that we're getting it. The second one for me is the right-hand side of midfield where Miggy currently plays. And I think that will be the one that they'll potentially go all out for. Who it could be, I'm sure we'll discuss it over the next week.
Yeah, I think I had said before that I was expecting 2, maybe 3, but it was just, I suppose, in hope more than anything else.
I think the issue is obviously there's so many names, as Pete's mentioned, we've discussed especially over this window, right? Who might go back to the first few episodes of the transfer window, transfer show this window, but you're looking at Diaby was high up on the list, and then obviously he wanted to stay at Champions League football and stuff like that. But then obviously you hear the rumours that come out last week saying he wants to leave. He's not happy with the way they've started. They're out the domestic cup already. They've lost the first 3 domestic league games. And then obviously, further development that Hudson Odoi is going to Leverkusen as well. So obviously that's like a like for like sort of player. So does that mean that they've brought him in to cover him going out? Possibly, I don't know. But obviously there's still the rumours about Pedro, and obviously he can play obviously we've had the Watford lads on the cup time. He can play anywhere along the line. So there's so many different. I suppose I don't know if you class them as irons in the fire type thing that you could pull the trigger on. So there's still all these names, but we could be still shocked by something we didn't know, like we have with the Isak one. Nobody thought we were going to go back in and do it and get it done, which we have. So I don't know what your lads' thoughts on that are.
Yeah, just before we into that, Richie, I want to give a shout out to Marty NUFC instead. Cheers for the donation to the channel, Marty, and also a shout out to George. Thanks a million for the Paqueta Fund. We may have to cash in on the Paqueta Fund soon. Hopefully we do. Sorry, Richie. The question again was?
Yeah, just to say about there's so many different players that have been linked with various. Obviously, we start with like Diaby, who was apparently the #1 target right back in the start of the summer, but then little different things ticked off saying that it wasn't going to happen. He wanted to stay there. He wanted to play Champions League football. But then they'd been knocked out of the domestic cup, lost the first 3 games, and now obviously they've brought Hudson-Odoi in. So does that bring people like Diaby back to the table because they're expecting them to go because they've brought Hudson-Odoi in as well? Or is it just us looking at it with a bit too much? Do you know what I mean? Or are we looking at that Pedro's done and he's the guy that's going to be coming in to cover that sort of position?
Well, if you look at wasn't there this week, wasn't there bids for Harrison as well? So maybe they might just say, and where's my beep button, and put a bit extra onto it and try and bring the Abbey in. Who knows? Anything could happen yet, as we've seen. I don't. If you've asked any of us that a couple 3 days ago, could you see us spending 58 to 63 million on Isaac? We wouldn't have believed it, but anything's possible.
Yeah, anything is possible. I think this deal has proved it, really, that nobody expected it to happen. And now everyone's second guessing Newcastle. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that nobody knows what Newcastle United are doing because they're keeping everything in-house. Exactly what you said earlier, which is what we've said for a couple of weeks now. It's exactly how it should be. Not even journalists know the real reasons of what's going on and who the players that are targeted. Nobody knows anything. So everything's a surprise. Everything's up in the air. But what we do know is that we're going for quality players. So you've just got to reel off that list. Alexander Isaac, Moussa Diaby. You've got the likes of James Madison. Tillemans, all these players that have been linked, not necessarily they're going to come through the door, but we're linked with distinctly better quality players than we ever have before. So who's to say? And if there is a surprise deal, the one thing you can guarantee above everything else is that whoever we bring through the door is going to be quality. And it will be either it equals or better than what we've already got in our starting 11. And that's the thing that fills me with confidence. Alexander Isak, very, very talented player, nearly 23 years old, probably at an equal appeal to Callum Wilson right now. Some may even say he's slightly better. He's got then another, 8 years on Callum Wilson to be even better in the Premier League. That's what we're talking about. That's what we said right at the beginning of the transfer window when we started these shows. Let's get players in that are better or equals to what we already have. So I haven't got an issue. And look, we've got 550 watching in the chat. Have you guys got an issue? Have you guys got an issue?
I think they might have an issue if Sean doesn't turn up, but let's hope Sean does turn up.
Half eight.
Half eight. He needs to say half 8 first.
But yeah, look, from this point of view, you've got to think about it. Have you got an issue with Callum Wilson being on the bench now that you've got Alexander Isak coming in? I haven't.
No,
Callum Wilson's a very talented player, but
yeah, no, like what an option to have to play in either of them, or if needs must, bring the two of them on if we go a goal behind or something like that. We're chasing the game, and we just need to switch it up to 4-4-2 or something. But no, and that's for him as well. It's probably a blessing in disguise as well, because it might prolong his career as well. It might, he's not busting himself to play every game. If he feels a slight niggle, he could sit one out, just to rest it. So that's not a bad thing at all. In my opinion, Richie.
It also gives you different options depending on the opposition as well. If you've got Callum Wilson up there, then the other teams may happen to know how you're going to play. If you play Isaac and Wilson, you're going to play a completely different way. To just play an Isaac or just play Wilson. There's so many different combinations you can do now, and that's always going to keep the opposition guessing what Eddie Howe's going to do, which is a good thing. What you've got to look at is what Eddie Howe's like to do with the previous side is bring them in gradually. It looks like because of the situation with Callum Wilson being out for 3 to 4 weeks with his hamstring strain, that Isaac's probably going to come straight in. We'd expect. Now, you can either hope he's going to come in and hit the ground running straight away, especially after he's expected to be confident. Obviously he's had this move for a start, but also he's finished against Barcelona last week. So he's confident in the minute. So is that for that question or what I've just said about his goal for last week?
Yeah,
this one I'd say.
This one down here.
All right, okay. I don't think anyone's disappointed.
Look, to be fair, Life Coach, that's a great point. Sorry to interrupt, Rich, but Jesus Christ, like, it's literally night and day between those two strikers, like Alexander Isak and Calvert-Lewin. Jesus Christ, I am so glad that we did not spend 60 million on him. Flip it out.
And another thing is it's nice to see PTK in the chat. And of all his talk of Ashford out, he's got Ashford in. I like it. It paid to be patient.
Do you know what? I think the other thing I was going to just say is the one thing that we've always said, and I think all of us have echoed this since probably the first transfer window. Obviously, we all know that Luke Edwards and he gets thrown in his face that Newcastle had a budget of 50 million, etc., etc. We've always said and we've always known that Newcastle have said there wasn't a budget there. It would buy the right, the money was there. If they found the right player at the right price, they would pull the trigger and do the deal. And I think this has proved that.
100%, 110%. And which goes back to the original point that we were talking about before. If it's the right time, the right budget, the right player, could it be James Madison? Could it be Mr. Diaby? Could it be maybe even Conor Gallagher on loan?
That's what I was saying. Because we've mentioned that many names, it could be anyone, and we could be surprised. I think the only thing we'd be surprised with if there wasn't any more additions.
Yeah. Is this more Paqueta news?
No. It's better. It's better than Isaac. It's better than Paqueta. It's better than anyone. Because we'd be killed if he didn't turn up. It's Sean Casey. Welcome, Sean.
Hi lads, how are we?
All good?
All good.
Yeah.
Even mate, all right.
I'm good.
Just the 1 minute late. Just the 1 minute late. We take it. You've had some impatient people in the chat. Where is he? Where's he at?
I tell you, I just made it by the skin of my teeth. I got in the door from work at like 8:15, 2 kids into bed, out of the bedroom by about 28 minutes past, and I was down the stairs like lightning. So,
fair play. Well done.
I've missed the last 2 hours of news, so you probably have to catch me up on a few things, so I'm not caught out.
I think the only thing you've probably really missed is the fact that West Ham have had their bid turned down for Paqueta. That's it.
I don't know. I think Pete, I sent it on to you yesterday, and somebody had sent me on the link to like the Paqueta bid went in through. Like, I was a lot of nonsense. Like, you see David Moyes in the press conference. It was like there was a fella standing behind him. He was like, "Yeah, he plays it," and they were doing like fingers saying, "He's an 8, he's a 9, he's a false 10, he's 22, and he plays it." And he was like looking at the crowd, Leon, yeah. He didn't have a fucking clue about him. Like, beep, he didn't have a clue who he was. Like, what I got yesterday is when, even before it broke, he said that people are pushing rumours about Paqueta, but West Ham are after getting a bid accepted for is that Ukrainian winger Maklowski or something like that. I don't know the name, the pronunciation of the name, but that Atlanta winger.
Yeah,
he got a bid accepted for him, but the player himself wants to move to Spurs. I think it is. He's at the turning down Marseille as well. So I think they use Paqueta to kind of start that deal a little bit more. Like, but look. you know what I think of Paqueta. Like, I think Newcastle is where he's going to go. Do you know what I mean?
And do you think it'll be in this window though, Sean?
I think it could happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. You know, again, look, if the deal makes sense, they'll do it. You know, and it's simple as that. The Isaac deal, very much the same. Like, you know, if the deal is right, they'll do it. With Paqueta, look, I thought 3 weeks ago it was going to happen. Everything was in place, as in I was fully convinced that they actually had the structure of the deal agreed with Leon, and I think a couple of things got moved around and stuff like that. You know, Bernardo Silva was meant to be leaving Man City, and then you had Fabian Ruiz leaving Napoli, and all of a sudden Napoli were interested, Man City were interested. The player himself, look, he's very interested in the move to Arsenal, but he's been told that that's not going to come to fruition. So, you know, there's a couple of things that have fallen into place over the last 3 weeks that's kind of pushing it forward again, you know. And my feeling is that, and kind of what I've got over the last 2 weeks with the Isaac deal as well, you know I've been on to Pete a good bit about it and stuff like that, and it was like, don't rule him out, and I've been on to a few people saying don't rule him out, although everybody's saying I photoshopped the tweets because I used the snipping tool. Like, anybody that ever used it, like, if you've ever used the PC in your life, you snip it, and there was one of them was like, why would you use snipping tool when you can't crop it, when snipping tool is actually cropping for PCs? Like, you know, look, you know what they say, like, you know, don't argue with idiots because they'll bring it down to their level and they'll beat you with experience. Like, so just let them off. But yeah,
Look,
you know,
I was going to say let's keep with that, because look, we've always said we're a real channel. We have everyone from all walks of life on, all walks of Newcastle United life on. There are some people that said that they got you today because of that little snippet. I caught it after I got back from work. People think, right, we've got him. He's a liar. They're honed in, I think. Am I right?
And you could see snipping, and the shade is lighter because when you search your DMs, right, the DM that you're actually looking for with the key name in it will actually go a lighter shade. You know, there was a fella actually had the description of shade. It was like AB37 shade blue and stuff like that. I was like, damn, these fellas are like fucking CSI, like, you know. But look, why I actually cropped it is because Kev, like Eddie Kev, I sent it on to Kevin. Look, Kev doesn't want to get into any of my nonsense or any of that, like, and he really keeps his powder dry. If you see, like, he will never get into an argument with anybody. He'll just put his stats out there and he'll never back him with an argument. Like, you know, absolutely incredibly nice fella, like, and I have a world of time from him. So I cropped him out of it because I just didn't want him getting the nonsense, because people would be saying, you're this, you're that, but absolutely not. Like, it's only me ever getting on to Kev saying, Kev, I've heard we're linked to this person. Do you have any stats on him? And he's like, Jesus, would you ever leave me alone? And that's exactly what it is. Like, that's the relationship between me and Kev. Like, we just bang back and forth about players. Like, and that's what the Isaac stuff was. Like, you know, so they caught me, like, you know, Jesus almighty. Like, you know, I screenshotted my phone and you could see the apps I'd open up the top and stuff like that. And they were saying, yeah, that's just even better photoshopping. Fair play to them though, like, they're persistent, like, you know.
We had to ask the question. We had to ask the question because it was always going to pop up at some point. So, you know what? Let's just ask the question now. Get it out of the way.
But I actually put the screenshot out there of my actual phone, and Kev's in the tweet and stuff like that. Like, you know, and like everything is there. You know, it's just, look, it is what it is. I wasn't going to bother with it, but I said for the fact that I was on here tonight and stuff like that, and I knew it would become a topic. So that's what it is. You know. So let's talk Isaac. So for me, it's something that was bubbling for about the last 2 weeks. You know, I spoke about it back in January. It came to light again, and for the last 2 weeks, you know, I was told that they've lowered the asking price, and it's a bit more feasible now for Newcastle, but the structure would have to work from. And I'm going to be 100% hand on heart. I actually had a conversation with somebody on when did the break yesterday, on Monday, and I was convinced out of that conversation that it was a deal that they were probably going to do in January. And I think I know they sent on to Pete as well. I was saying, absolutely don't rule them out, but I think it's more looking like a January move now. But as you see, you know, the club paid a premium in the sense of they cut out the middleman and they went direct with between them and Sociedad to get the deal done, like, you know, so they moved it forward. I think Wilson's injury, you know, the fact that he was out for 3-4 weeks, you know, and then you have recovery and stuff like that. Like, and, you know, after the game, I was told that the owners and PAF side were absolutely devastated that they let the game go. Like, you know, not devastated in the way they were angry as, and like they thought, geez, this is how close we are. Like, you know, how can we get a little bit closer, like, you know. So that performance and the crowd and stuff on Sunday, like it definitely freed a few things up, like, you know, and it got him to push forward, and definitely on the Isaac deal, like, you know. And I think what's happening with Pedro at the moment on the back of the Isaac deal is, I think we're going to get another surprise, you know. And I think the fact that I think the Isaac deal presented itself really, really well for the club, you know. When they went in from first at the start of the summer, you know, they were after being told by intermediates, because what you have in a deal, you have intermediaries, right? You know, you have your player, your agent, and then you'll have people that will go to clubs and trying to create a package, you know. So there's a lot of people involved in the deal. It's not just you ring an agent and say, I want to buy your player. You have intermediaries working on deals all the time, and they're saying, this player might be available, this, and this, I can contact his agent, and they work in between, and that's how clubs don't get caught out in either with tapping up, you know. So I think from what I got is that the club were approached, and they were told that the deal would be available at 58 million. They were originally quoted 80 million, which was his release clause early in the summer. And they were told, when they actually went in for the first time, that Spurs got offered a deal of 37 million up front, and then installments to bring in around the 58, 59 mark. You know, so I think they've got now what Spurs were offered. You know, so the payments, the repayments and stuff like that, like, and it staggered over a good time as well. It made a lot of sense for the club, so they jumped on it. You know, very much like the conversations we've had, and when we've said, like, if a deal presents itself to the club, they'll do it. You know, I think Isaiah coming now, and they have another deal lined up. A big surprise, I think, is going to rule out the Pedro deal, unfortunately, because the player was keen on coming. The fee is agreed, you know, regardless of what other people are saying and stuff like that. Like, you know, I know I shared a bit of information with yourself, Pete, and that, like, you know, it's very much for Newcastle to sign off on the deal, and Newcastle haven't. They've dragged their feet over the last 2 or 3 days. You know, the structure was agreed with Watford, and it was just an exchange of paperwork, and they've held back on it. You know, I think we might get a surprise over the weekend, you know, because they see Pedro as kind of filling that half space, that right wing position, you know, and just kind of a stopgap between now and Diaby, because they are still very much interested in Diaby.
Yeah, it was such I just find it such a strange situation. I think you're right. I think it might even be coming out now that the Pedro deal is off. Richie,
I've just on Twitter now. There's lots and lots of info going on, saying they couldn't agree a fee. It's all been called off.
Yeah, Luke Edwards is saying it there as well.
There's a few different. I will say, just for the people who are Luke Edwards fans, there's quite a few sources saying it, so it's not just Luke Edwards. There's a few sources there saying it.
So you would imagine then if they're gonna, they'll just turn their attention elsewhere to fill someone in that position. And because we were talking, we mentioned there earlier that there was another Harrison bid rejected this week. So yeah, it could be someone like Diaby, as you were just kind of indicating there. Could it be? Sorry, Gordon.
They did touch base on Diaby there at the end of last week, and they were quoted 63 million. So again, they're not going to commit that. And with Leverkusen, they're hard sellers as well. They want a huge bulk of that up front. You know, so
would the thoughts have not possibly changed on that, Sean? With obviously Hudson-Odoi going in as obviously, is it competition to play on the other flank from Diaby? Because technically, he normally plays on the same flank as Diaby. So, or is he like? Did they see him actually leaving and they brought him in and cover in case he was to go?
I don't think so. I think Hudson-Odoi will play more on the left. You know, and I think he'll play. I think that's where he wants to play. Like, you know, I think he'll play on the left. I know he's a right footer, like, you know, but he's not going to take Diaby's place. You know, and I think with Hudson-Odoi, like, you know, Newcastle were definitely interested in a lot of Premier League clubs, but he's been advised to go abroad because he's out of form, he's out of shape, he's not the player that he was that burst onto the scene a couple of years ago, like, you know. So he needs that move to Germany to rebuild his confidence. It's a league where if you have a bit of pace about you, that you can stand out. You know, you see that with a lot of players there, like, you know, the crossover from Germany to England. It's not great, like, you know, like there's not a great success rate. I'd say probably 10% of the players are actually a success, you know. So I think for Hudson-Odoi going over there, it's more to rebuild his career. Whereas with Newcastle, even Southampton or any of these things, he's thrown straight into the media spotlight again. Like, whereas going over there, he gets a break from himself, much like the Mary Gray done as well with Leverkusen and stuff, you know. But yeah,
Luke one as well, didn't he? So
he did, yeah. You know, I'm being honest with you personally myself, I'm devastated that the Pedro deal is going to fall through, you know, because I think he's an absolutely fantastic talent. you know. But again, they seen him as someone that could be back up to Wilson, and he could fill that right midfield position, well, that right side of a front three position, like, you know. So, and the player himself was absolutely convinced he was getting the move as well, like, you know. So again, look, I think he's losing out because they're going to push on somebody else. Let's see who it is. You know, there's a lot of irons in the fire at the moment.
Could that back up what you were still stating from what you said about the Saudi side of the consortium after the Sunday's result, that they've seen how close they came, that they've possibly switched tact a little bit about
maybe so. You know, like there's a lot of things starting to present itself at the end of the window. Like, you know, like this Isaac deal, like it presented itself. You know, it's not something that they expected to be able to do. You know, they were looking to get maybe a player in on loan as a stopgap and bringing out somebody like Pedro, like, you know, that's young that you can build on. Like, they weren't going to commit massively financially to a striker because they were going to go again for Isaac in January, and if they didn't get him in January, they would have went from until he joined another club. Much like Botman and much like Bruno Guimaraes, there's players that they won't waver on, that they will push for them as hard as they can until they get them, and if not, then they'll move on to somebody else, like, you know. So Isaac, Diaby, you know, these will all stay very much at the forefront, like, you know, and that deal presented itself in the deal that they could do, so they done it. You know, it's strange, like, how they could fit a £58 million deal into a 50 million transfer budget. I know they're great business people, like, but how they can squeeze that is beyond me.
Okay, so how does this fit with Callum Wilson then? Because it's quite clear that the club, Eddie Howe in particular, hung his hat on Callum Wilson to be the main man this year. He wanted him to get into the World Cup squad. He wanted him to play. He's now only lasted 3 games. Where does it leave Callum Wilson?
Look, I think you can tell by now Eddie Howe will give you a very strict textbook answers. You know, it's almost like, you know, it's, you know, so like when they ask him about Wilson, of course, they're going to say like, yeah, well, I'm going to bang on Wilson. They asked him about Isaac yesterday and he was like, who? No, I don't know. I was, you know, like he never heard of the player before in his life, you know. So Eddie Howe isn't going to give you absolutely anything in a press conference.
Poker
like,
face.
You know, and he knows with Callum Wilson. He's worked with Callum Wilson for a long time, you know, and they have analysed his injuries and stuff like that. And I'm going to be honest with you, and it's probably not going to please a lot of people. And me personally, I'm going to say that I think Callum Wilson is a fantastic striker, but he's not the striker for the system that Eddie Howe wants to play. And that's the thing with the likes of Shamaka and, like, you know, like there were strikers like Dembele linked and all this kind of stuff. Like, you know, they want to be on the shoulder of the centre back. Eddie Howe wants a striker that will take a step off the centre backs and he link up with the inverted wingers. At the end of the day, you can watch the games, and if you have any bit of football on about you at all, you can see that if you're playing inverted wingers with a target man like Chris Wood or like Wilson that wants to be inside the box on the end of a corner, it makes no sense, and that's why our front three look like they never played together. You know, so it's that link is gone. So with Isaac now, with him being there and him being able to drop off, and when Maxi cuts in or when Almiron cuts in, Isaiah can receive the ball and bring a full back into play or something like that, like, you know. So I think he wanted that deal, and he knew that was the one he wanted, and that's the one that's perfect for the system, you know. So with Callum Wilson, if he wasn't hanging his hat on him, he would have brought in somebody like a Pedro or a Broha or somebody like that just as backup to tide him over until Isaac hopefully came in.
Yeah, the beauty is that Isaac can play on the left or the right as well as an alternative, so he can fit the mold, and there is a chance they could probably play in the team together. But ultimately, you're right. Technically, he's better on the ball. He'll be able to link the play a lot better with the likes of Maxi and whoever plays on the right, whether it's Miggy or somebody else. But no, that's an interesting one. That is for sure. Any questions? Anything you guys want?
Just one comment. Andrew is going to buy everyone on screen and everyone in the chat, all 665 people, if Madison and Diaby are not in by deadline day. Thank you, Andrew. Or maybe not. Maybe we all owe you a pint. There you go. That's fun.
That's it, Andrew.
There's a few things I wanted to say, but there's so many. I've started so many. I don't know where I am. Shout out to Donald for the donation or for the tattoo fund.
Yes.
Thanks, Donald. Thanks for that.
Everyone in the chat, we've got 680 plus watching. Don't let Daz forget the tattoo deal.
Yeah, everyone knows what it is
Was there something he said something about the Isaac deal as well? He was going to dress up as a unicorn or something if he signed.
No. Unicorn.
I thought I remember that.
How
No,
do you dress up as a unicorn?
Yeah, he's going to do the unicorn. He's going to get in the zebra costume, like obviously the unicorn version, with Chris, and do the dance, recreate the dance.
I heard something like that as well.
Yeah. You need to get your ears tested, lad.
If anybody can make up a rumor, I can.
I'm going to clip that bit now, Sean. On Twitter, fly off the shelves. Shout out to Oliver as well for the donation. Thank you very much. And also shout out to Rich. Thanks very much for the donation.
Yeah, Rich also states that that's for the new vest fund for Pete.
Oh god, yeah, it'll be back. It'll be back, I'm sure, at some point.
You know what? Before
there you go, super sitting towards his new vest.
Before we get into incoming still, let's go to one that from the start of the comments to start, and it's about Dubravka, the whole Dubravka situation. What's your thoughts on that, Sean? And a loan to Man United?
Look, I think it's a disgrace if they do it. You know, I know the player wants it, but look, it's counterproductive for us really, and especially the way that they treated us with the Henderson and the Lingard stuff in January. You know, so look. Yeah. If he does it, best of luck to him. You know, he's not going to get a game ahead of Pope. It's a shame to see him go to Man United, you know, because I do see him as a rival now, as a direct rival, you know, so it's a strange move for him. But I think was it yesterday around 4 o'clock? I think I got into one of you anyway, and I sent you a DM saying that Dubravka didn't travel, you know, so look, I'd like to see him go to somewhere like Leicester or something like that. Like, you know, it's that'd be a good move for him, because I don't want to see him sit on the bench either. Like, you know, like I have a lot of time for him, like, you know, and he's stuck with us. He's kept us in the Premier League, like a fantastic servant. Like, and I'd be disappointed by the club as well if they left and go to Manchester United, being honest with you. You know, but look, if that's the only deal on the table from, then fair enough.
It doesn't make sense. Look, for me, it doesn't make sense. Some others have opinions and have shared them last night and today, off the back of one of my tweets, and think differently. But like, I just think that we're strengthening a potential direct rival this year in Man United. And yes, he won't play every week, but it'll be strengthening them in their backup range. I'm looking at Newcastle United. I'm thinking, yeah, Pope is number one, no doubt about it. You know, he's already proved it this season already. But if for whatever reason, and we had a few of them yesterday in injuries, something happens to Pope, you want a stable, confident deputy to come in and take charge. And Dubravka would be that for 3, 4, 5 games if needed. I don't trust Darlow. I don't trust him in Premier League matches. Yes, against Tranmere, fair enough, but I don't trust him. But why strengthen another club, a direct rival potentially, and allow him to go on loan? If they're giving us 5-6 million, fine. You know, we're getting a transfer fee for that. But to send him on loan, yes, he'll benefit financially. But at the end of the day, we're Newcastle United. We need to be thinking about us, in my opinion. We need to be thinking about what benefits us. And we could go through history of the Premier League and go, how many teams have gone, you're not going, you're staying regardless. Because we need you.
The thing for me is, you know, you have Newcastle and you have Manchester United, you know, 2 managers that are going to go all out for the League Cup and the FA Cup. You know, if we meet Manchester United, say, in the current position now, if we meet them, say, in a quarter-final or a semi-final of a League Cup, they have Tom Heaton on goal. If we sell him Dubravka, they have Dubravka on goal. Yeah. That's huge. You know,
he wouldn't be able to play against us, would he?
Alone.
Well, if they sell him, you know, they sell him,
yeah.
You know, because I can't see him doing a loan. You know, like I think they'd do a deal for about 8 million if they were going to sell him. You know, whereas if I was a club buying him, I'd snap the hands off for 8 million. You know, I know he's 33, but do you get me? Like, I don't know. It's that's a big thing for me. Like, you know, even if he's not playing directly against Newcastle, you know, they still have Dubravka as a cup keeper, which is huge. Whereas we have Darlow. Like, the difference in them is day and night. Like, you know, there's massive levels between both keepers. Like, you know,
we saw that last season though, when Dubravka was injured and Darlow, he changed the way Newcastle played and everything. You know, the defense looked more solid when Dubravka was in goal rather than Darlow. It was easy, right? As Pete said, night and day between the two.
Yeah. You know, and again, look, if he goes, he goes. Like, you know, look, we're moving forward either way. But I just think you're kind of, it's a bad move for me, and I just don't want them to go to Man United because of the way that they treated us, you know, and it's simple as that. I see a lot of people there tweeting a certain journalist is saying this, that, and the other. For me, you know, and it was an eye opener for me the other day, is that when you see Amanda Stavely at a Chelsea game, and next you see all the journalists saying that, literally, right, every single one of them said linked Newcastle to every single player that Chelsea had available. That's fucking. I get blamed for guesswork, but my goodness me, like it was like Amanda Stavely at the Chelsea game. Newcastle interested in Hudson-Odoi, Conor Gallagher, Amanda Broha, and like literally any player they had available, Pulisic. Like, come on, no, like that's getting sloppy. Like, you know, at least do what I do and put a week between them or something, you know. But, it's crazy, like, you know, and like what it is now, and like I'd be 100% honest with you, the club is locked down. Like, you know, I've had people, like, as I always said, I have no direct source at the club. Absolutely not. Never going to pretend to have one. You know, I had a great link to the takeover through a different channel, you know. But at the club, my link was indirect because I had people who knew people at the club that got information here and there and stuff like that, like, you know. And even they're saying, no, not getting a peep out of it, locked solid. Nobody's getting anything over it. And what's happening now with the club is, you know, they're hearing rumours about somebody being interested and they're going back to the club and they're getting a no comment. You know, so there's no favours being done, or no, I slide you a bit of an info there. You know, like I got blasted yesterday for saying, you never said anything about Isaac playing today and signing today, and I was like, could you list off every single journalist in England and say the exact same thing? You know, you have David Ornstein, you have Romano, you have all these people that didn't have a clue it was happening until it actually dropped. You know, it was some local radio station in Sociedad that actually leaked it. You know, it was crazy. I had to send ITK accounts know nothing because they didn't say it. I'm like, nobody else said it either.
But the first link early on in the summer with Alexander Isak, to be fair to him, and loads of slated him in the chat. To be fair to him, I don't like what he did with Newcastle fans over the takeover, but he has been in and around it in terms of the news over the course of the summer. We can't deny it. Luke Edwards was the first one out of all the Northeast journalists or Newcastle journalists to report about the interest in Alexander Isak. We'd had the conversation the week before, Sean, about Alexander Isak before that story had even come out. And to be fair, the other thing is what's been interesting, and I don't know what you think about this, or all of you, Richie, Daz as well, is that, you know, there seems to be this narrative that it has to be a Northeast journalist that have come out, that has to come out and tell you that the deal's happening in order for the deal to actually happen. But I don't know whether you've noticed this, but I've noticed a number of deals before they've been confirmed and signed off that have actually come from foreign journalists, and people outside of England are signing off these deals. Is that down to what you've just said, Sean, in terms of, you know, the club are keeping things in house, they're locking things down? Is that the reason for it?
Absolutely. Like, you know, the local journalists have no link to the club now, so they can't verify. It's not that they're not hearing it, you know, because like I'm getting off people, I'm like, look, I'm getting a whisper of this and stuff like that, you hearing it, and I'd be kind of like, oh, if I do, I do, if I don't, I don't, like, you know. But like, they're not getting any, because like the thing about being a journalist, that you want somebody that's absolute concrete telling you that this deal is going to happen before you put it out, because as I've said a million times before, when you're a journalist and if you get something wrong, they're abusing your place of work, like, you know. So like they really have to fact check things and stuff like that before they put it out, but there's nobody from the club giving them anything, you know, so they have nobody to bounce the information off. So it's the foreign sources now, so it's where the player is coming from, really, is where the leak is coming from, you know. And like what I will say about Luke Edwards and stuff like that, like, you know, it's not that the man is a bad journalist, it's just that he likes to fill the information void with nonsense. You know, once there's a gap there, you know, or there's a, like, you know, once the deal is agreed, there could be 2 or 3 days of a lag and stuff like that. Like, he will play on that, like, you know, and he'll wind the fans up, and, you know, like, he'll probably say, no, again tonight, like, well, the fans are on the crest of a wave and they're saying this is fantastic, and Isaac, he's probably saying, yep, that's it, they're going to sell St. Maximin and this, that, and there, you know, this kind of nonsense. So look, I'm not saying he's a bad journalist or anything like that, like, but he just likes to get under the fan skin, you know, and that's the long and short of it, really, like, you know. And he had an awful old rant as well at the ITK accounts as well at the start of the summer, didn't he? It's like somebody rattled him.
Yeah, I think he's been rattled a few times. Good old Luke Edwards. But yeah, I would agree. Definitely around the takeover time, he was like intentionally winding up fans, and actually taking joy from it, which is the worst thing. But like you've said, it doesn't make him necessarily a bad journalist. There are some
No,
good links
like
there.
and like when he was trying to put the pieces together as well, that the Saudis funded the Super League and all this kind of stuff, like, what a load of nonsense, like, there was absolutely no substance to it, like, and it's true, like, I think a fan account called him, or there was a fan called him out yesterday, and they said, you were so adamant on winding fans up about Pedro that you actually missed an exclusive on Isaac, and he blocked him straight away.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So look,
you can't put a foot wrong with him, or otherwise you're at the game. He doesn't mess around at all. But
no,
just sticking with outgoings. So we talked. Daz mentioned Dubravka. There was another one he played last night. He had 45 minutes. There was a link here with Nice targeting the signing of Jamal Lewis. What are all of your thoughts on Jamal Lewis? Do you think he's got a future at Newcastle? Would you see him as the deputy, a stand-in for Matty Target, or do you think he just needs to go and get games elsewhere?
I answered this as soon as I saw that link, and I said, and I know it might be slightly different than the rest of you, is that I just think he needs game time. So I would send him out. I either send him on loan, but if it's to indicate there that it's a permanent deal, I'd be sending him out with an option to buy back. But he's not going to get a game at left back because you have Target obviously is in there. And if the backup to Target in that position is going to be burned now, the way it's gone, because Lewis could have slotted in there when instead of Target, but it was Byrne that went in there. So, and then we also have Bondswell as well that can play there, but potentially he might go out on loan or something like that. But so I think he needs game time. He can't just sit there on the bench for another year, and it's just a complete waste. Either send him on loan or send him with an option to buy somewhere that he gets game time. For me,
Richie,
I've always liked Lewis. I just think he's been very, very unlucky in his career so far since he's come to Newcastle. It was good to see him get 45 minutes last night. As Jano's just put there, and so is Dan Brown. Literally, as the comments coming through, he's much better as an option than Dummett. Dummett's always been a defensively sound left back, but he's never really offered anything going forward. Whereas, Lewis is much better going forward, and I think you can see that while he's been fit, the space he's been fit, that Eddie Howe's worked well with Jason Tyndall defensively with Newcastle as a unit, so you can see him, getting better on that front. I sort of agree with what Daz said, though. It's how much game time is he going to get, though? Because obviously he needs to be played as well. So is it worth sending out on loan for this season and then bring him back into the fold next year? I wouldn't put him on as I would only let loan him out for a season. I wouldn't have put an option to buy or anything like that. I'd be a bit more disappointed if Newcastle did do that.
I don't know what's going on with my light. Is it my eyes, or am I just turning pink here?
Turn into a unicorn.
He's been back on the sunbeds again.
Yeah, I think my light bulb is about to die. In the dark in a second. Can I contract that and go whiter?
I think you go on that red. I think your body's got it to the shock of getting, that you could be getting this tattoo. It's getting used to how red it's going to be in that area.
I'll try turning off the light, see what happens. Back a sec.
Oh my god! It's Sean, Jamal Lewis. What are your thoughts on that?
I'd absolutely keep him around. They need to rebuild the man's confidence. He's a better left back than Matt Target. Not better defensively, but better offensively, and that's what's needed. You can see, I think we play fantastic when we have three centre backs, and if you can have a left back that can push to the left side of midfield, or a Trippier that can push to the right side of midfield, I definitely look. I know how likes him and how rates him. I know the players really, really rate him. But his confidence is absolutely shattered, and that's what the summer was for. They wanted to rebuild his confidence and they want to get him back amongst the group. But he's had a couple of niggling injuries and stuff like that. Jurgen Klopp wanted him at Liverpool and he highly rated him. That's enough for me. Yeah. They don't get much wrong in the transfer window. So look, maybe does he need a loan for game time? Maybe so, but I think we'd be shooting ourselves in the foot as well, because if Target gets injured, I know Bourne's doing a good job there, but either Bourne or Dummett, I don't think they're viable options long term left back. If you have Target out for 2-3 months or something like that, I'd be playing Lewis.
No, you're right. Burns done a decent job when he stepped in, like you said, in that position. For me, and even last night, I don't know what your thoughts were on Paul Dummett. I just thought he was the weak link. I really do at that back. He was playing centre back in that game, but he just looks like the weak link. I wouldn't trust him to be a deputy at left back. He does need games. Jamal Lewis does. He needs games, but I just think, because we've already had an example of Target picking up an injury, we need someone, like you said, who's like-minded in that left back role to get up the pitch, support up and down. He's an athlete. I just think we might need to keep hold of him this season. But I think we're all distracted at the moment. Those in the chat are distracted as well. Daz, I don't know what you're doing. Some sort of exorcist moves you're playing at the moment. I don't know what's going on.
I think I'll carry on like this. This will have to work. This is the best I can do in the dark. Carry on.
Dan Brown's right. Dan Brown is right. Your screen is on 110%. Dan Brown. Look, Daz, there's quite a few questions in there for sure.
There's millions of them.
If you can see me.
Okay, let me see. What can I take out here?
That threw me completely.
Let's go for Chris's question. I'll have to read it first. Question for you lads. Given the choice of Madison or Paqueta, are you happy for Bruno to sit in the deep lying position, or would you prefer us to go for a defensive midfielder instead? And let's actually, as part of this question, let's link in with PSV getting knocked out of the Champions League, Sagari, and also the Ajax lad as well, the Mexican lad that is being linked. So
Alvarez,
yeah. Let's link all that in together as a topic. Do you want to go first, Sean?
Yeah. So, for me, I don't think they see either Paqueta or Madison playing in the midfield. I think they kind of see him in that kind of the half position out on the right side of midfield, not as an out-and-out winger, but not a line hugger, but more of a kind of an inverted winger. So I don't, for that question, really, I don't think that they see him as midfielders in that sense. Don't get me wrong, like you might see Paqueta there over the last 2 games. He's actually played kind of in a double 6 role with Kakara, so he's capable of playing in all 6 positions. But I honestly think if they bring in Madison or if they bring in Paqueta, it's going to be on the right side of a front 3 rather than actually in the midfield. I know they held talks with the reps of Edson Alvarez there again, kind of over the weekend, and it was 35 million with a significant sell on. That's where that deal is at the moment. I think if they brought him in and pushed Bruno forward, it'd be unbelievably productive. But Sangare, look, fantastic player, and what I was told is that his release clause stays active if they get knocked out of the Champions League. So will a club move from there on? Maybe so. If I had my choice, what would I do? And if they had one transfer left in them, I'd bring in Edson Alvarez. And that's being honest with you, because I think Bruno as an 8 is absolutely exceptional. Himself and like ASM and Isaac, and I know you have Almer on the club. He's an absolute workhorse, but technically he's not the greatest. I'd limp along with Almer on, or maybe an Elliot Anderson, until the end of the season. And if Wilson gets fit, you can push Isaac out wide, or you can change the formation to compensate for and get the 2 of them in. But I think Alvarez, I think a holding midfielder is probably, if we're getting one more in, I think a solid number 6 who's good on the ball, I think would be absolutely my first choice. But look, I still think Paqueta is signing, so what do I know?
Good stuff.
Good answer. And anyone else want to jump into that one? Would you go for, if you have one shot and one opportunity, would you pick a attacking midfielder or a defensive midfielder?
Oh, it brings me back to my 8 mile days. Jesus Christ. It's a great question. I like Sangare. I think he would fit the mold perfectly. I think Sean's right in what he said. We've talked about it as well, Richie. I know you've had the same mindset. Is playing Bruno further forward in that role is the number 8 would unleash him a little bit more. Lots in the chat have mentioned it on various other shows in recent days and weeks that Bruno needs to play further forward, but we need someone that's going to lock down in that defensive role. We need someone that's going to be solid, hard to beat. If you look at every good team, and I'll use the example, and he's not there right now, but I'll use the example. Real Madrid's success has been built on not just Modric and Kroos being exceptionally good on the ball, both in defensive and attacking positions. Casemiro in the middle, being the destroyer, allows those two to play the game that they do because they've got the confidence that they've got a guy behind them that can shut up shop. They've got that. Man City have been the same. They've always had a Rodri or a Fernandinho to break things up to allow the others to get forward. Liverpool with Fabinho is exactly the same. Teams are building that way now. Manchester United, for all their shocking start, have a similar type of midfield now to the likes of Real Madrid. They've got the Casemiro in there. They've bought him. And then now what they're likely to do is play with Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes and to allow them to do the business going forward because they've got the destroyer there. We have those players that can get forward and cause problems, the Joe Lintons and the Bruno Guimaraes. There could be one other, but we need that destroyer in there that's going to stop and break everything up and give the others the confidence to push forward. So Sangare for me, I think would be a good fit.
Do you know what? I'm actually going to sit on the fence with
this one.
Go on, Daz. Go on.
So, Richard, before that, just laughing at this one. They're starting to question Sean, but they trust myself and George Culkin. So I'm up there. I'm up there with George Culkin. Sorry. weirdest comment I've seen. Sorry, Richie. Carry on.
Do you know what I was going to say? I would actually sit on the fence with it because I'll be happy with whoever they bring in. For one of the reasons that Pete's just touched on that it's and we've discussed this quite a lot over the last week, is the versatility of Bruno. We bought him as the more of the deep lying sort of role. So if you brought the attacking one in, then you're doing the role that Bruno's there for you. But then obviously we discovered how good of Bruno is going forward as well at the end of last season. And so that's also giving you the option that you can still do that and bring in your CDM sort of player, your hold and break up player. So it's, I don't know, it's just, I think that the fact that you've got such a unique diamond in Bruno Guimaraes, that it gives you so many different options in the transfer window. You're not pigeonholing you with a certain purse player. They already said they had a small pool that we're looking at, but that just increases the small pool a little bit bigger because it opens up the potential of a different player to come in as well. So you might, instead of being looking at 2 or 3 players, you could possibly look at 5 or 6 players. So I'd be happy with whoever they bring in. It'd be really great to see Bruno in the excel in the role that they bought him for. But at the same time, I'm excited to see him in the role that you saw at the end of last season. With the way his goals against Southampton, his goals against Norwich, the goals against Arsenal, his 2 goals against Leicester with the one, the 94th minute winner, which you saw him run the full length of the pitch. I'll be happy to see Bruno in any of the roles, and whoever they feel that's going to complement him, which way they want to do it, I'm more than happy with.
See, I think with Bruno, if you play Bruno in an 8, you're talking double figures. He's going to get double figures goals and assists. That's a given. So I think you're restricting him in a 6. Even I know talks of Gallagher and stuff like that, but for now, Gallagher doesn't want to leave London in the sense of maybe he might commit to a loan, but he won't commit to a permanent deal afterwards. So that's a big thing. Will it happen? Look, we don't know. Could he play in a double 6 with Bruno? Let's see. But as far as I'm aware, and like what I've got told is for now that if Gallagher can get a move to stay in London or even stay at Chelsea, he'll stay there. So I think, look, that one might go right to the wire. Again, if he's not getting game time at Chelsea, if he doesn't get a mover in London, he might come to Newcastle, but the fact that he won't commit to the deal, and Eddie Howe is very much saying to people that there's no escape clauses, and if I'm taking somebody in on a loan and not improving him for another club, I'm getting him in here to improve him for Newcastle. So that's probably killed a couple of deals as well, but that's where it is with Gallagher. I think with that, I'd like a 6 in, but look, I think there's a lot of coincidence as well, in it there, with Paqueta. You have him on yesterday, he done a stadium tour and said his goodbyes, and if anybody's seen his Instagram, it was kind of it looked like he was saying goodbye to Leon. You have the owners are in London today when their biggest ever signing is in Newcastle, and you also have Paqueta's agent in London as well today. Because why would
John? I was just going to bring it up.
Why would half the consortium be in London when your blockbuster £58 million signing is going to be unveiled at St James's Park? They're taking all the pictures and stuff tonight. It's a bit of
it's a good point.
It's a coincidence, and his agent is definitely there, his reps are there, and the player did, if anybody's seen his pictures that he put up there today, he done a stadium tour with his family and, taking pictures over the ground and stuff like that, it's all a bit random to me, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sure is. Just, sorry, Pete, go on.
No, all I was going to say is that, yeah, it could well be that case. Because I think it wasn't it Dan Ashworth and Nixon that brought him over.
Yeah, they were with Dotty Dad with them. Yeah,
they flew him over. So could it be that Mairdad and Amanda are in London trying to tie up the next deal potentially, like you've just said. They do live in London. That's the other thing, as well. So it could be that they're just at home. But look, we already know from January with the transfer window coming down to just a matter of days. Newcastle behind the scenes will be working as hard as ever to try and get deals done. So yeah, it might be a day or two at home, or it could well be getting deals done. Who knows? But Daz, you wanted to mention something.
But I wanted to say what I forgot. So much going on here. It's like trying to land a plane. Chris is coming here. If you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button, and if you haven't hit the like button, hit that as well. There's 723 watching, so please do so. Do it now. Or as Martin says, just do it, or something like that. Anyway, we'll have to get it back.
And you had as well as
there's probably loads.
Sorry.
Pete, have you sent him a bottle of brandy over there or something? Is that why he's having trouble with the lights and all that sort of stuff? Because he's just doesn't.
My bottle's here. My bottle's here safe. He must have bought his own.
Pete would not that door.
He's all over the shop tonight.
To add to it as well, you had Sam Fender at St James's Park today, and he was doing the video and the promo for he has a he's 100% doing a concert in St James's Park over the next couple of months. So you think for something like that, something so big, wouldn't you think the owners might be about as well? There's a lot of reason for him to be in Newcastle at the moment. Why are they in London?
I think the interesting thing about what the Mairdad story on Insta, he actually says a nice evening walk after a stressful day. So it makes you. It does start to think what you think. Are they down there for other reasons? Because there's a lot going on. We've got 7 days. But
it's you see, I see fans there and they're melting down because Luke Edwards is saying it's loans only. This is the fella that said we had 50 million to spend, and to even spend that 50 million, we had to sell players. And I said Maximum was going to be sold, everybody was going to be sold. Then after we bought in the lads, it was fucking sell to buy, and no more was going to happen, and this, that, and the other. And then absolutely caught flat-footed on Isaac signing yesterday. And now he's loans only. The owners are selling their kids to fund the rest of the transfer window, absolute scaremongering, and the fans are lapping it up again. I actually admire him. I do. He pulls it off every single time. Fair play to him.
You can't accept the president, though.
It's whatever he says, it's cryptic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll obviously delay him on my side. I log out
Daz is in Australia.
He's gone. He's gone. Yeah, I tell you what, that has had an absolute shocker tonight. Bless him. He's back.
I'm still here, but I'm going now.
You'll be back. He's restarted. He'll be back in a second. No doubt about it. But
You know, there's people actually believe that you're paying me £300 to be on this, and Daz is doing it.
You missed it before because they were turned around when if you were going to be on at 8:30 and they were saying is there a delay? We said it's all the contracts all fall to bits. We can't agree add-ons.
Oh, for God's sake! There was a tweet today. It was like I don't know why people listen to him like he's only doing it for financial gain. I was like, Jesus Christ Almighty, can you not take a joke? Like, you know, it's funny.
I've got one. I've got one that's not been linked with Newcastle. I just want to get your thoughts on this. It's a player that looks like he could be moving, and I was surprised to see this a few days ago. But Pedro Neto, you know, it is mentioned by Graham Bailey that there's a number of Premier League clubs that are looking at him. Arsenal seem to be at the front of the queue as a potential deal. Right-sided midfielder. You know, it seems like I think his agent George Mendes is working on getting interest from other clubs, and there seems to be this argument. Speaking to a few Wolves fans as well, that they feel his agent and Neto feels that this is the time now for him to leave Wolves in order to get to that next stage in his development. Could there be a swing? Do you think there's any link there? But interestingly, for both of you, do you think he's what Newcastle need?
I rate him highly, being honest with you. I was actually told a couple of weeks back that Newcastle did register an interest in him. How strong that interest is, I don't know. Is it just a loose link because he was being touted about a lot of clubs? You know, he was being offered about. If you type in Neto in your DMs, Pete, you might find something I sent on to you a while back. But yeah, he was being pushed around a couple of clubs, like, you know, and Wolves do want to kind of, not that they're struggling to cash in, but they'll sell a star player if the price is right, like, and it looks like they're going to do with Neto. They've had a fantastic transfer window, to be fair to them. You know, they've really strengthened in the right places, like, you know, so I don't think, like, the thing is, has he done enough to be a big loss for Wolves? I don't think he has. You know, he's shown it in fits and starts, like, you know, so I'd rather wait on Diaby if Diaby's the one, like, you know, if he's really the one that they want to bring in as the right winger, like, I'd prefer to wait on him rather than put it, like, because you're going to be paying the same fee roughly for Neto, like, you know, and he looks like the one that Arsenal want to bring in as well, like.
I think, do you know what? For me, for Neto, it's like Sean says, he hasn't pulled up trees really at Wolves. You know, it's been fits and starts. I say him going to Arsenal anyway. For me, it's, if you look at they've let Nicolas Pepe go to Nice today on loan. So you wouldn't really let someone who's a wide player in that position go unless you had someone lined up. So for me, I think Neto was set to go to Arsenal, if I'm honest with you.
He's the head of the list for them. Absolutely head of the list. So that's just an interesting one that I just thought, not directly linked to Newcastle at all. I put it in the chat. Would you take him? Would you take Pedro Neto? Not linked to Newcastle at this moment in time, but I just thought it was an interesting one because it was last season. Obviously, he had a bad injury, but before then, people were bigging him up as the next big thing. And a lot of top teams looking at him. So I just thought it was an interesting one. One that hasn't really been talked about, lads, and I'll come to him next, is that, you know, at one point like this was odds on, and it's gone extremely quiet now. Goncalo Ramos was heavily linked a couple of weeks ago with us. Looked like we were just waiting for the bid to go in. Then it's all gone quiet. He's now finished the Champions League qualifiers, which seemed to be at the time the thing that was holding things back. Where do you see this one at this moment, Sean?
I think it's a strange one because they were so eager to sell him. You know, they've offered him around to absolutely everybody, and the manager has kind of went out publicly and said, look, he's not the player for my system. You know, and like, he's started the season fantastically well, and the problem is that they've went to a couple of clubs and they've said that, look, wait till after the Champions League and then we'll sell him, and then we say, you know, so I think people moved on from it. And like the links to Southampton and Wolves and Newcastle, they've all just went dead. Like, because Newcastle, they put a proposal together for us 20 million up front and 40 million over a certain amount of time. But I think what happened with Newcastle there is, if Isaac didn't become available, very much that we probably pulled through on the Ramos deal. But I don't know. I just think it's strange that they were so keen to sell him after losing Nunes as well. Like, there's definitely something else going on there. Like,
do you think this is done, Richie? Do you think that a little bit like João Pedro has been announced tonight? That do you think this is it's a no go? The deal's off.
I think it is now. If I'm honest, now that Isaac's come in, I think if he hadn't come in, I think it's one that could have still potentially happened. I think the only thing that he does in addition, really, to I know obviously, Isaac, the way he plays and stuff like that, and where he can play and the role he plays. The one thing about Ramos as well, he played out wide last year, obviously with Nunes, so that's always also a potential option. But he's not that out and out wide man that you want. It's a bit like I suppose he's more of a central striker than what say Pedro was, but Pedro's one that more can play all three positions. Whereas is not like a number 9 that can play on a flank sort of thing. I think that's what Ramos really is. And I think he's proved it now that he's been able to go into the middle since the summer with Nunes moving on. So I can't see it happen. I think with having Isaac in, I just think we're looking more through an out-and-out winger. I've just got, I don't know, this all the links and stuff that's going on potentially with, I've just gone back to number 1 again. I've just got me fingers crossed that Diaby. I really do. It just there's a few things. Obviously, when you see potential stars lining up, it's all these little things that are starting to tick. Remember when you go back to 2 years ago when we first started on Matters, and Liam used to always say the ducks are lining up. It just seems to be that with Diaby. It's just I think it just comes down to whether Newcastle have the balls to pull the trigger again for a figure of that amount straight after doing it for Isaac.
Well, you mentioned it anyway in the chat the other day. They're rock bottom, aren't they? Rock bottom of the league.
They're out the domestic cup. Rock bottom, 3 defeats out of 3. They lost to Dortmund, Augsburg, and Hoffenheim. So they're like the goal difference is shot to pieces as well. I haven't seen who they've got in the Champions League draw today because I was out about when it was drawn later on, so I don't know who they've been drawn against. But he was already turned around and said there was rumours coming out that Diaby wanted to leave Leverkusen already. So I don't know. It's just weird. It just as I said, as Liam said, the ducks are lining up, and it just seems that's all I'm going to do.
I was going to say, remember. Was he not the first choice?
They said straight back in the window he was the first choice. He was the number 1 target. Even over when everyone presumed Paqueta was, they always said that Diaby, numerous reporters reported it, journalists reported it, he was the number 1 target.
Yeah. So, and it goes back to the point, and Sean, you might have an opinion on this, Daz, as well. Is that it goes back to the point that we talked about this earlier in the window, is that, when a player is first choice, more often than not, when possible, we've got the guy. So Kieran Trippier being one, Bruno Guimaraes, although we weren't aware of it, it was a bit left field, like Isaac as well. Number 1 target, Sven Botman. That was a saga and a half, but again, first choice, we managed to get him. The only one that we didn't really get, and correct me if I'm wrong, that was first choice was Darwin Núñez, because obviously he went to Liverpool. But would you say that maybe Isaac was second choice? If he was, we got him, or we're getting him. We're very close to getting him. So could it be that Newcastle are going back for their first choice and going, you know what, F this. Let's get the guy because we want him. They're in a difficult position. He must be watching that game on Sunday against Man City thinking, I could have a field day. I don't know what you guys think.
But see,
oh God, I was going to say, I don't know whether you actually saw us just be going about the cost and everything. People put in the chat, just be sorry, Sean, but they were just saying about, I don't know whether anyone saw Talk Sport this morning, and there was a conversation between Simon Jordan and Jim White, And everyone was saying around about Newcastle, we're only going to spend this. And as we've discussed already, but he turned around and he said, Newcastle don't have to be scared of FFP if they find the right person, which is what we've said all along. So, we don't have to look over our shoulder like other teams. We might do in, say, 3 or 4 years' time of all these mistakes, if these transfers come back to haunt us and we don't see where we're going and we end up like an Everton. But if these transfers go like the way they have been, the workout they have so far, then we're not going to have to worry about it at all because your income's going to increase because of your performance on the pitch, your European competitions and stuff like that. So technically, even Simon Jordan, he's ran his own club. He's going to be pretty head screwed on regardless of FFP. If he's saying that we don't have to worry about it, who knows what we could pull the trigger on? Sorry, Sean. I know you were obviously going to come in there.
I forget what I was going to say. I know you went on a bit of a rant there. But yeah, I think we were talking about we were talking about number ones. Like I said in my extremely well photoshopped tweet, my DM, basically Nunes was Steve Nixon's number one. He done a lot of work on him, and he was one that he pushed. And I think Eddie Howe wanted Isaac, and look, obviously Nunes never became an option because he signed for Liverpool, so to say who was number one it's kind of difficult because I don't think they ever got to hash that out, but for me, much like they said with Botman that, across the board, Botman was unanimous, yes. Isaac across the board was unanimous, yes. Diaby across the board, unanimous, yes. You have Sucic, that midfielder across the board, he's unanimous, yes. They're nervous about that deal because with RB, you go for him and he goes to the other RB, it's a hard one to do, but and you have Maximum Lacrosse as well, who's the centre back at Wolfsburg, across the board, he's unanimous, yes. Will they waver from them? Let's see, but I know for a fact they're the players that they want 100%. Again, look, with Pedro was very much an option. It looks like the club are at the back and now the deal, you can paint it whichever way you want, but they had agreed to structure the deal for 30 million, 25 million, 5 million with add-ons, which I said about 3 days before anybody else put out there. The club have pulled back on it. It happens. The deal was very, very close. It was just an exchange of paperwork and the deal was being done. They've pulled back on it because, look, in my belief, they've pulled back on it because I think they might have another blockbuster lined up. Let's see.
I'm getting excited now, guys, about the end of this transfer window because I just think. Sorry, go on.
The end of the last transfer window, right? They put out about 180 million in bids on players, and all of a sudden, then they're safe and they have a good chance to crack top 8, maybe top 6, and they think, "Oh Jesus, this FFP stuff, we better worry about it." What they spend now, we don't have to worry about for another 3 years because we're on such a sound financial footing. What the thing is Everton maximised their commercial portfolio, and then they had all these links with Russia and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into too much detail now on this because the video might get pulled. But the thing is with Everton is that they maximise their commercial portfolio, and when their huge financial levers had to pull out as well, and they're building a stadium, we won't get caught like Everton. Something that I said way back on the show is that people say that, and I know a couple of journalists push this as well and stuff like that, and they say, "Oh, because you have the richest owners in the world, doesn't make you the richest club in the world." You're gonna have to beep this, Daz, because how fucking stupid is that? It goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
Go for it. Right? having the richest owners, right? I'm echoing there. Am I echoing in this? So having the richest owners in the world, right, will go hand in hand with being the richest club in the world because they will build a commercial portfolio, the richest commercial portfolio in the world. There'll be sponsorships, corner flags, and fucking you name it, absolutely everything they possibly can. At this moment in time, the Premier League have won, right? What they put in place from the commercial perspective and with the sponsorship and stuff like that, they've absolutely stifled us. Hands up. they've won for this window, you know, in that sense that we couldn't. There was two sponsorship deals that the club were going to push through, which they didn't push through because of this, you know, and they have an absolutely lazy system, which is dreadful. That makes no sense. That they're very much saying that, or if your shirt sponsorship, as in the fun one, is worth 6.5 million, then that should be your most expensive sponsorship. So everything after that would probably be downgraded by 2 or 3 or whatever that, like, you know. So they've just taken a step back, and in the summer when we get our new sponsorship, they'll go from there then. You know, so again, next summer, like, you know, it's I had a great conversation with somebody there recently that knows an awful lot about football and the club and stuff like that. Like, and they said, if you think the plans now and if you think that what they've done in January and this summer is exciting, what they have planned for next year is going to absolutely blow you away. You know, and I'm not saying that to lead the fans on or anything like that, like, you know, but like next year when fun goes, they'll bring in another couple of sponsorships and stuff like that. FFP isn't a worry because we can build past it, like, you know, and if they spend 300 million out, they can make that in commercial revenue in that time, so it's not an issue. We have the new training ground, which will get a sponsorship, you know, as in the refurb. They can rename that Benetton, they can call it whatever they want, the PIF training ground or anything they want, you know, they can rename a stand, they can do whatever they want, you know.
And that would eradicate any additional spending that we made this summer, surely. But
absolutely,
with those it would make it a non-factor.
Like the signing Sven Botman, the Noon shirt sponsorship actually paid for Sven Botman. You know, so if you bring in a shirt sponsorship that's say 25 million, you know, that's Isaac and Paqueta or whoever paid for. You know, because that's how it works. Like it's the deal. Whatever you pay up front is what you pay up front. But the struggle now for the club at the moment, and what kind of debilitated them a little bit this window, is that it's kind of ready-made cash. You know, so it's the money that you actually have in your pocket that you can pay for a deal up front, and that's why they want to structure them over time. You know, because what you have to remember is Amanda Stavely is worth, say, 100 million, for example. I don't know what she's worth, you know. So she has to match everything by 10%. You're talking the Rubens are worth 16 billion and PIF are worth trillions, you know. So for now, that's probably kind of holding them back a little bit, actually having ready-made cash to put up front on a deal, and that's why they're trying to space them out. And that's why a couple of these probably went by the wayside, you know. But again, it's a small little thing, you know. It's a moment in time, like, but look what they've done with the restrictions. So imagine when the shackles are off, they've actually brought in a legal team just to work against what the Premier League have put in place, you know. So again, like, you know, people talk about building skyscrapers, but like, you know, like when you're building a house or a skyscraper, you never see what goes into the foundations, and it's probably the most expensive part. And what they're doing now is they're getting like the Darren Eales and the Dan Ashworths in, they're getting the legal teams in. There's going to be a new fan liaison, they're coming soon, so she'll be starting at the club soon, and we'll see a lot about her as well, you know. And they're putting everything in place, you know, that we have a very, very successful club going forward, and the fans will have their say. And you know, it's just the tip of the iceberg. No, like, we haven't even scratched the surface on what this club is going to be. Like, you know, I see people say that we've got our club back. We haven't got our club back. We've got so much more. Like, you know, it's absolutely incredible. It's pinch yourself. Like, you know, I know a journalist recently said that the Newcastle takeover is more like Leicester than Man City. We've actually spent more than Man City in our first window than they did. You know, and like the level of players we've got in comparison with them, you know, we spent around 200 million, and they also paid up the 20 million that was owed on Willock as well, so they've taken over that. So in fact, they spent about 220 million to date, which is absolutely incredible over 2 windows for a club that was going to spend 50 million per summer window, and they didn't want the deal in January, you know.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Link to that.
Go on, Das.
Sorry, just link to that was there's still a delay on my side, is Man City and signing Robinho was a question, is our Robinho signing? The answer for me is no, because it's signing, it's strategic, it's long term, it's and it's Eddie Howe masterminding our way forward into the future.
But no, like,
any thoughts there?
They're not selling players they haven't signed them to sell jerseys or anything. That's what Robinho was. Like, Robinho was brought in as a jersey seller, and to say that, oh, look, he came here, you can come here too. You know, it's not like, you know, players are like Newcastle are saying, you come here, you earn your stripes. You know, like, you have Bruno rode the bench for a while, Botman the same. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Isaac is on the bench for Wood at the weekend. Like, you know, you earn your place in the team. you know. And what Eddie Howe is putting in place here is it's absolutely phenomenal. Like, we're so lucky to have the man. Like, you know, like it's an incredible position that we find ourselves in. Like,
I think the one thing that the difference may be between the Robinho and the Isaac one is, and we've said this numerous times over this one, they're looking for people with a certain character. They're not, as you've said, they're not looking for people just to come along and pick up a paycheck. Everyone's going to be wanting to pull in the same direction as a team. It's not about individuals. It's about a team ethic, work ethic, and that's what they're buying into. So, and that's part and parcel down Eddie Howe.
None of our signings have been Robinho signings. Is because Robinho ultimately was bad business. It was bad business. Yes, it was a signing from Real Madrid that got Man City fans excited, and I think he turned up in his first game. It might have been against Chelsea where he scored. But other than that, he didn't do a hell of a lot with his time, and it was that to get tongues wagging. That's all it was. You know, if anything, I would probably if I was going to match him, which I'm not, it would be more really to Bruno Guimaraes, and Bruno Guimaraes has already done in 6 to 8 months more than what Robinho did his whole time at Man City. But Isaac is a little bit different. I would maybe match Isaac.
Aguero.
No, I was thinking Aguero, but I was thinking slightly before that. It just in the time frame of the Man City takeover. I'd probably
as long as you don't say Joe, Pete, I'll be all right.
No, definitely not Joe. Joe was an absolute disgrace alongside Robinho. I would maybe put him at maybe like a sort of Carlos Tevez, maybe in between a Carlos Tevez Adebayor type signing, because they were statement signings. They were both kind of made in the same summer. It was a statement signing to kind of get tongues wagging. They pulled him away from Arsenal.
That's not a bad shout, Pete.
And
comparison.
Yeah, possibly.
Similar age and stuff as well when he joined.
The only reason I'm saying Tevez in Adebayor is because I'm looking at the timeline of the takeover, and obviously, of course, that strikers, although Sterling can play there. But Sterling's not a bad shot either. But I put him to that type of signing. I just think, you know, Isaac has the opportunity to be even better. He's not as well known in the Premier League like Tevez and Adebayor. They had kind of, you know, they came with kind of a little bit of a higher reputation. But I just think it's that type of level, and I'm just so excited by it. I can't wait.
I've got a question for Sean. But just want to say a few things before I miss them. Is thanks George again. He says it's for the tattoo fund. No, it's for the light bulb fund. I need to buy a new light bulb now. But thanks George. Thanks also to Oliver as well, and was highlighting about Mirdad's Instagram post, and we'll just be talking about that earlier. And I know this is a late comment we did get in. Also, cheers to Shane for the super sticker as well. Thanks, mate. And yeah, my question for Sean is, and there's been a few questions in the chat here. And I'm going to round it. This to be talk about Pulisic, to talk about Gallagher. Of the Chelsea players that we've been talking about, obviously Hudson-Odoi is gone, but do you see us bringing in any of those now? And because we've kind of changed tact a bit, we're talking about who else can we buy, who else can be a big name signing that we bring in to beat our record nearly, break it again. But so do you see any us bringing in anyone on from Chelsea? It's really a general question.
Look, again, I don't think the Chelsea players will commit to. I don't think Broha and obviously Hudson-Odoi is going to, you know, with Pulisic. Like with a player like Pulisic, you have to get the player to agree, right? But you also have to get the player to agree to the obligation, and then at that obligation, he's on about 200,000 at Chelsea. You know, so like Newcastle would want to renegotiate his contract in as well. On top of that, that makes it extremely complex. Like it's not that they don't want him or they're not going to try. Like you have to get him in, then you have to get him to agree to the obligation. Chelsea have to agree to it, and then he's also going to have to say, okay, if you play 20 games for Newcastle, we're happy with you. You're taking $100,000 pay cut. You know, it's a very hard negotiation, and we're just not at that level. And that's what I was told Hudson-Odoi a couple of weeks back as well. Like I think he's on $120,000, and the obligation with Newcastle, and then he'd have to renegotiate a pay cut. You know, so that's where they are with it. And look, I think I actually got 1 or 2 DMs there about Pedro as well. Like, you know, and I look, I don't think it's something that's 100% off the table, and they will revisit again, and he will stay a top target for a young striker. You know, so look, let's see how the window tails off. I'm ruling nothing out.
Nothing out. Yeah, play it safe, Sean. Yep, play it safe.
I think
I
I can go for an exclusive and say I think we'll sign someone before the window closes.
Oh, breaking news. Just there's 744 in the chat. Make sure you've hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button as well. And
200 likes at the moment. I think
lovely.
just over 200 likes. But we've got 750 in the chat. So just click that thumbs up. Just click that like button. Makes a massive difference. And I know we've got some new watchers in the chat tonight. Click that subscribe button. Come and join the Loaded family. You know, 500 away now until that magic 5K, which is amazing for us as a channel. But yeah, thumbs up, click that like, click the subscribe, come and join us.
And the other thing is, Richie has highlighted to us. If you were here earlier, you'll have known that Andrew is going to buy us all around. But if you're all 748 and also on screen here, Andrew is going to buy us another round. So drink up. We'll be another one coming from Andrew when Isaac scores a hat-trick against Liverpool. So, it's a double brandy for Pete.
I must have done it if he's going to buy me another bottle.
That's it. To be fair, Pete, he hasn't told you it's had a pint of what though? A pint of brandy for Pete.
Well, it's the only thing. It's the only alcoholic drink I drink. So, like, if it's anything else, I'm not touching it. So, that's the deal. Brandy or nothing. He's been watching long enough now. He knows the score.
He knows. Sean, we might as well go to you with this one. I imagine it's off the table now. That this Ramos.
It's done. It's off the table.
Yeah, grand. Cool. So I can't ask you the question. Who do you think will be our deadline to sign? Because you've not ruled anyone out apart from Ramos.
Well, look,
I don't think you can.
Look, honestly, with the Isaac stuff, it shows you that anything can happen at the drop of a hat. You know, and when deals get that close, nobody really knows about them. You know, and let's be honest with you. You know, you can link people and there'll be rumors flying about and stuff like that. Like, for me, I'm always going to put the information out raw. I really don't give a bollocks whether I'm right or wrong. You know, it's always going to be close to the truth. I put out what I get. You know, and it's never miles off in the sense of what I was told this morning with Pedro was that documents were there. They were there to be signed. It was on Newcastle's end. It was up to Newcastle to push through the deal over the last 2 days, and Newcastle have dragged their feet over it. It's all but done. It's a case of filing paperwork to do that deal, and they've pulled it out. No, it is what it is. It doesn't bother me. You know, you can blast me all you want.
Sean, we don't know how the transfer window. We might have. We mentioned this the other day. We might have plenty of irons in the fire still. The deal's agreed. You know? Something else might fall through, and the last minute to decide. Do you know what? Let's just pull the trigger on Pedro. We haven't been able to get anyone else over the line. We'll just go for it. So there's nothing to say. They might still submit the paperwork.
I've been honest with you. I think that they're trying to do another deal over the next 2 days, and I think if it doesn't come off, that they might go back into Pedro. You know, and that's my understanding of it. You know, I think they are trying to pull off something else. You know, and again, the club people can blast me all they want because when things get really close to the club, I might be a little bit off the information. But back in April, I said that Pedro will be looked at as a backup option, and it came out last week. Back in the start of January, I said Isaac, and it came out. You know, Sean started picking up on it in about June. Botman was last summer, even before the takeover even started. I started on about Botman, and then Trippier was way before it as well, you know. So look, I'll always have the loose links and stuff like that, and people say you've linked us to 100 players, so none of them signed. I'll say Newcastle are looking at this player. I'm not saying they're signing. Like, sometimes I wonder about people, like, you know, if they can actually read or not. Like, you know, it's there was somebody sent me on something a while back. It was like there was like 73 players that were linked in the media, and they had my tweets previous to it. And he was like, "I'm going to put this out," and I was like, "Jesus Christ, don't you be shot!" And you put that much effort into it. Like, I was like, we just leave it as it is. Like, you know, you went on to NUFC.com, and he got it when the dates were put up on NUFC.com versus when I said it. You know, and I was like, fucking hell. I was like, no, leave it off. don't go through that much work. But look, I think they'll go big again before the window closes. two loans is very hard to do because you have to get players that are going to commit to them, and they know that they need a midfielder and they need another winger. We're like going into the season, if we go into the season the way that we are, even with Isaiah, it's the sharp blanket thing. Like, we don't have enough up top.
And
Go on,
Sean, okay, if we were to push it, you're on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you've used up all your lifelines, you have to pick one signing that we're going to bring in by the deadline. Who are you going to pick? You can't pick Isaac. Who are we bringing in? We have to push up for one.
Paqueta.
Lovely.
Look, I don't care. Look at that.
I'm gonna throw another name out there that I think we've touched on slightly tonight, maybe before Sean came on, but we've not gone back to it. And it just come up on a comment that Daz has put on.
Yeah, I saw it.
James Madison. Now, what was interesting is that I think I dropped something in the chat, in the loaded chat today, that says that not only is Fofana not going to be available for the next game, and apparently Chelsea are preparing a fourth bid for Fofana, but also Madison has a twinge and may not be available at the weekend. That was the line, I think, from Brendan Rodgers today in his press conference. So, obviously you've said you think maybe Paqueta could be the guy, and I think it's the one that lots of people have talked about across the NUFC social media. But James Madison, could that be that late deal that we go for and just think, we know what the price is, we know what it is we need to pay, because Leicester have said 60 million. Could we just go, here's what you want?
Look, I'm going to be honest with you, on James Madison. Eddie Howe wants James Madison 100% over Paqueta. There's absolutely no doubt in that. They made the first bid, got rejected, second bid got rejected, and then they were going to go back for the third, and they were told 80 million, and that was basically because Madison had given the indication that he was going to sign a new contract. Now, Newcastle they'd need a nice push in the direction to actually go back for Madison, because there was a lot of time put into the deal. Ashworth visited the training, going to Leicester, lots of meeting up and stuff like that, and they thought they were close to the deal, and Leicester pulled the rug out from underneath them fairly quick. So look, if they had a choice in the morning between Madison and Paqueta, absolutely they'd push on Madison. You would be very surprised what offers itself before the window closes. And if they were offered Madison or Paqueta in the morning, they'd pick Madison. But I think Paqueta might be that little bit closer.
Where do you think he's going to play, lads? Look, I'm talking like he's already signed. Put
on the bench.
Yeah, if Madison was to sign, if he was that additional, striker that we went out and paid, or midfielder, should I say, that we'll go out and pay the money for, that statement signing, is he going to be the right winger, or is he going to be the number 8 that we play him in? Where do you see him fitting best in this Leicester team? In the Newcastle team, should I say?
But see, I think Madison actually fits the system less than Paqueta does.
Yeah.
Because Madison is very good in a narrow system, like in a rigid 4-4-2 or something like that. And he loves kind of picking up the central areas and likes drifting, and he doesn't really like responsibility either. Whereas Paqueta is an absolute workhorse. Look, I rate Madison very highly, but if you were to play Madison in that kind of half space there on the right side of a front three, I don't know. That's where I could see him playing, because I couldn't imagine put him in there with Bruno, because you're kind of adding to Bruno's workload defensively. You'd probably have to go Bruno, Joelinton, and Madison then, so that seems a bit unbalanced to me. I don't know. I can't see that, so with Madison, I don't know how he's going to incorporate him. I know people think that Eddie Howe is absolutely stuck to this 4-3-3, and that's what he briefed all the journalists and all this kind of stuff, that he's going to play 4-3-3, but Eddie Howe likes to lead people on the garden path too. I think you'll see him play 3-4-3 or 3-5-2, or I think you'll see him mix it up a bit like that, where he will drop to 3 at the back, because I think that's when we play our best football. Chelsea away last season, Man City at the weekend. I know Bourne was playing as a left back, but if you look at the shape of the team, Bourne was actually kind of in alongside Botman and Schär, and Trippier was very progressed, which was fantastic. So again, look, less interchangeable systems, and it's having these options. I think we're going to have to get used in going forward. I know it's kind of we're at this thing now where we'll have that one player that we have to fit into a system, whereas now we're going to have to get comfortable with the idea of in 2 years' time where we're probably going to have the likes of a Madison and a Paqueta and a Diaby that are fighting for a place in the team. You know, it's brilliant, isn't it? You know, just kind of, I catch myself sometimes, you know, and I spend some terrible times in the stands, like, you know, traveling all the ways over from here, and you're down to lash and rain, and they get beat fucking 3-0 by Fulham, and, you know, these kind of things. Like, I know I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, wow, like, you know, like we're signing Isaac there just out of the blue, like, you know, Bruno Guimaraes, who was probably, like, you have Sven Botman, the most sought after centre back in Europe. You have Bruno Guimaraes, who, like, you know, Juventus thought they had lined up, and he's, like, statistically probably the best 6'8" in Europe at the moment. And you have Alexander Isaac, who is, like, absolutely incredible. You know, like how lucky have we got, like, you know? And, like, it's not this stupid going out, like, throwing money at, like, a Pogba on a free transfer or a Dybala or anything like this. Like, there's so much thought put into it. It's unbelievable. Like, you know, it's kind of like if you gave any of us the transfer window, like, you know, it's probably like the smart signings that you'd make. Like, you know, it's fucking incredible. Like,
I've got a question, right? Just for all of us. Okay, I'm going to start with you, Richie. Like, it's not. This is not a who do you think will bring in. It's a who do you want to bring in. You could have bring in anyone that we've talked about or anyone else. Realistically, who do you want to bring in?
Maybe could be two.
You want two, Pete?
Who knows? Could be. Let's say two.
What two? So what two do you want to bring in?
Let's be.
Well, I'll tell you what. Here we go, because my answer's in the question I've just starred before, right? And it's where's that? There we go. Jimmy Watt.
Pull it up, son.
Harrison, Madison, or Diaby and Paqueta.
Oh, I tell you what, Jimmy, what a question.
You know what? Actually, I've had a bit of back and forth with Jimmy as well, and kind of, you know, in a very positive way. And I DM'd him kind of back last summer and the takeover and stuff. Do you know what? I have fantastic interactions with him, and I just want to call it out. Like, you know, even when kind of shit hit the fan and stuff like that, like, you know, and the stress was there for everybody, he was always very polite in his approach and stuff like that. Like, you know, so fair play, Jimmy. You know, massive respect from him, like, really good in the chat and stuff like that. Fair play, Jimmy. But for me, if I had the option,
give Jimmy a follow.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, it's the kind of Newcastle fan that you want to see on social media, because it's a cesspit. You know, it really is. Like, you know, it is. You know, I'm not emotionally attached to it. I don't really look at it that much. I just put out a tweet and I kind of more active in my DMs. But anyway, going off on a tangent, Diaby and Paqueta, it's not even a question. You know, I think Howe sees Harrison. I think Howe sees Harrison as somebody that could fill that right wing role. You know, could interchange with ASM, but could also drop to the kind of left of midfield 4 if you're playing a back 3. You know, be really effective in that position. So Diaby and Paqueta. You know, that's not even a question. That's like saying, who do you want on the show? Sean Casey or Fabrizio Romano? You're going to take Sean Casey every time.
Every time. That's what we've turned them down so many times.
Do you know what? I think the interesting bit about this question is because for me, it's Diaby and Paqueta, because I think they fit our current system best, if I'm honest with you, and I think they're a step above the others. You look at that, Leicester are saying they want 60 million for Madison. But, you know, Leon are out there saying they want 60 million euros for Paqueta. So that's 10 million pounds cheaper to get Paqueta than it is Madison. So, you know, you've got to look at also the currency that they're working as well. What was Sean? What was the last quote for Harrison? Money wise,
I think they're going to go around the 35 million mark. You know, and look, I like Harrison. I really rate him as a player. Like, you know, and I think if you had Bourne and if you had Botman, Schär playing in a back 3, and if you had Harrison and Trippier right of a midfield 2 and then 3 up top, I think it'd be unbelievable. You know, you have 2 absolute, you know, out and out fantastic wing backs. Like, I know I'm saying that they're left and right of a midfield 4, like, you know, but like even playing them, you could drop them into a midfield position or drop them into a defensive position and then kind of add a third midfielder to your midfield. You know, I'd really like Harrison and Trippier as wing backs. Like, you know, if you're playing a 5 at the back or if you're playing a 4 midfield, I think he gives us a lot of flexibility.
I think the point I'm trying to make about those two combinations is you know, obviously you're saving 10 million on the Paqueta side of things if you're going off the valuations each club, the selling club want. I think you're probably going to have to go to 40 million if you want to look to prize away Harrison from Leeds, realistically at least. So that's 40 million, but GRB was getting quoted at about 55 million euro. So you're looking, if you put those two prices together, you're probably there or thereabouts £100 million for those two players. Who would you have for it? Be a similar sort of cost? For me, it's Diaby and Paqueta all done because it fits the system now, and you could work with the players as well. But I don't know. That's obviously where you'd come on to Pete and Sean for that one.
The thing about it is that you have Harrison and Madison, that they're next year they're only have a year left on their contracts. Am I right in saying that? I think they're in their last 2 years of their contract, so their valuation has dropped massively this time next year. You know, and I think that's why the club aren't going to push it too much, you know, because agents tip people off and stuff like that. He's not going to sign a new contract, or he's going to try to look for something, you know. So I don't know. For me, it's Paqueta and Diaby, but again, look, I think it's the financial side of it. Diaby is going to have a lot of suitors, like if he has a decent season, you know. And I think there's a big thing as well that people aren't really talking about is the World Cup is at a very bad time. You know, there's been a couple of players that just wanted to sit tight, you know, and they were afraid to make that move, you know, especially Diaby. And that was a big concern with him, is that if he came to Newcastle and if he had a bad start, you know, he's on the outskirts of the French team at the moment. Like, you know, Martin Terrier as well, another player that they inquired about, you know, he kind of took a step back because he was thinking, I could possibly get in the French team. You know, if I go to Newcastle and if it doesn't work out, that's me missing out on the World Cup. Like, you know, so a lot of players kind of wanted to take that pause, take an extra 6 months at their club and then revisit it.
I think the interesting twist on that, though, for the Diaby bit is, though, his current form or his current team are in absolute annihilation. The form is abysmal. So if he's playing in a team that's got abysmal form, is he risking going to the World Cup because his current team aren't doing it as well, which means he's not doing it, possibly?
Maybe so, but it's a moment in time, really, with Leverkusen. Like, you know, like Wolves have 1 point this season, Liverpool have 1 point this season, you know. Like, they'll both climb the league. Like, Leverkusen will do the same, you know, they'll climb the league as well. I don't think he's going to panic because they've had a bad start. You know, I think he'd probably sit tight. But again, if in the morning, if he was made available and if they said to Newcastle, we'll do a deal for 50 million, say, I think Merdad would send Amanda on a holiday again. He'd take the bank card and absolutely splash the cash. I seen, was it Charlie Bennett, was it the other day, said that? He was like, it was like big capital letters. That's actually I think that's the fourth one, because I seen the Isaac stuff break, and then I was in work and stuff like that. So about 2 hours later, I got back to it, and the first tweet that came up was like, Merdad's got the bank card. I nearly fucking pissed myself laughing.
Love it.
For Pete's sake, though, that actually works. For Pete's sake, I think you would take great pleasure, Pete, in taking Madison from Leicester.
Oh, for sure. I honestly, the fun I had. Obviously, I was away, so I didn't see it when it initially broke. But when I came back, the fun I had that week with those two deals going through, I had Leicester fans rattled all over the place. Some of my good mates were absolutely rattled in bits, like over the fact that we could be taking Madison. Even the local guy at the shop, they were actually talking the Madison deal, and I come rocking in with my Newcastle shop pop on, and I get so much stick from him, and I'm just laughing it up. I'm tearing him apart there. So look, I'd have a lot of fun if Madison came to us. But you know, what would be interesting, and look, we won't get into this, but what would have been interesting is from that question that was asked from Jimmy, is if you swapped Paqueta and Madison. So you had Paqueta or Harrison or Diaby and Madison. Like that then for me that changes things, because that's more of a pull either way. That would make it more of an even pull. But it was a great question regardless, and I think that's probably why I've held on to the Madison deal for as long as I have, is because he's a Leicester player, because I don't like Leicester, and because I take immense joy from taking him from them to us and making us a lot stronger. But
if I could sign one player to close the window, and we're on the subject of Leicester, it'd be Tielemans.
Yeah, that's where I was going next.
Over. See, I'm ITK, Daz. I can read your mind, my man.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. Hey, what you don't have to
keep up. You know,
you saw,
it's hard. It's hard
hey,
tonight because I can barely see on the
whoa,
screen.
whoa, wait, hang on. I have the clip. I can play the clip. I asked Ben Jacobs the night before the takeover, because we knew it was going to happen then. On the 6th of October, I asked the question, name your price for Tillmans. And if that goes through, that's going viral, that clip. But so I would love it.
It's an
I would love it
interesting
if we
one,
got
isn't
him.
it? You know, like they're trying to push him. You know, and Arsenal seem to bite on it. I think Liverpool might kind of sneak in late because he would absolutely walk into that Liverpool midfield and be a starter, and he'd absolutely change him. You know, but I think if it comes down to 2 days before the window, you know, window closes and he gets no bites, and Newcastle have to sign Isaac and maybe another one signing, and he's thinking they could push for Europe here. I think Amanda's going into the cupboard and the bank card's coming out again, like, and we're getting Tielemans. You know, it's you know, they want them. You know, there's definitely interest there. Like, you know, like he's a game changer. Like, imagine him and Bruno on the double pivot and Joelinton just going around kicking the bollocks into everybody. You know, we can dream.
There's been some discrepancies about how much we could get him for. I mean, I think Ben Jacobs on one of our shows earlier on in the summer mentioned around the 25 million mark that we could potentially get him for. What, like, some are saying 30, some are even saying more than 30, but he's got less than a year left on his contract. Like, what would be, for all of us really, what would be kind of the value mark of Tielemans right now, knowing that he clearly wants to leave, he clearly doesn't want to sign a new contract, and as well as that, Leicester need to sell him?
I think the price that was being banded about was about 35 million at the start of the summer, you know, but I think between 25, 30 million, you know, even with a year left on his contract, like, you're talking a player that's at Leicester and he's really just like he's ready to push his head through the ceiling. Like, you know, he's excellent. Like, you know, and he's struggling in a Leicester team. You know that their defense have actually forgot how to defend. You know, like Fofana against Martinelli, there was it last week. Honest to God, like, you know, he was absolutely ripped apart. Like, their defense is atrocious. You know, and Tielemans is starting to kind of having to plug the gaps there. If you put him on front of a Botman and a Schär and Bourne, he'd be absolutely excellent. Like, I can carry away with it, no.
Yeah, I know.
Do you ever, you know, when you read all these, like, I'm big into psychology and stuff like that. Like, I love studying psychology. Like, and it's like when sometimes you want to wish things into happening. Like, you know, I'm going to be fucking wishing Tielemans into Newcastle for the rest of this transfer window.
He's 25. Just to answer the question here, Tielemans is 25. Just Google it there. Yeah. I'll save the clip for when he signs.
Yeah, definitely. Last few questions. If you want to hit 2
questions,
show them the last few questions.
Okay, kind of covered things as we've gone through, but let me see. Is there any other ones? Repetition on Paqueta and
Simon's got a good question because this was someone that was brought up this morning actually.
See that,
and it's about Victor Hugo from Flamengo. That was someone that was brought up as well. I think it was someone from Newcastle. It wasn't Jordan. It was Jordan's colleague that brought it up actually.
I know they've looked at
yeah, might be Mark Carruthers.
You know, I think Nixon's been over there a few times, and they've spoken to 2 or 3 players over there. And the thing is that you can agree contracts with players and stuff like that, but I don't think you can actually sign the contracts because of age. I'm not too up on the system. No, I actually do have to do a bit of digging about it because I've got 2 or 3 names sent to me recently, you know, and there was one of them, I don't know the name, but I think they're convinced that they haven't signed, but you actually can verbally agree, but legally you actually can't sign a contract because of their age. You know,
I don't know how old Victor Hugo is, but the article did say he's got 100 million.
Hugo.
He's got a 100 million buyout or something, but Newcastle reckon they can get him for 10 million with 2 million plus add-ons or something. It just seems a bit.
I think, unfortunately, they pushed on a lot of young players this year. Like, you know, like I could list off about 14 players that were after visiting the club and stuff like that seen the training ground and this, that, and the other. But they went to Chelsea and they went to Arsenal, and, you know, they just didn't buy in because, let's be fair, like it's a you know, like the training ground is absolutely diabolical. I've actually seen stuff about the upgrade man, it's unbelievable, you know. And this is just the upgrade to the stadium, to the one that's there, hydrotherapy pools, all this kind of stuff. Like, you know, it's going to be unreal. Like, even just the redevelopment of that ground, never mind saying the next one that they're moving into, you know. But again, like if you're walking a young player like the young player that went to Chelsea instead there recently from Southampton, if you're walking him around Benetton and stuff like that, and then you're bringing down Benton, and then you're bringing him down to Chelsea and you're showing him their facilities, the difference is astronomical, like, you know. And that's why they're not getting the buy-in at the moment.
Just a few shout outs. One to William. It was from earlier, but William, congratulations on passing your GCSEs and the good news on Isaac joining us. So well done. Also, lovely comment from Ray on about the show. He's loving the show tonight, and also on Andrew as well. This has been excellent, even though he's had to buy a few rounds tonight. Definitely the best show since the last one. So cheers, Andrew, as well. Yeah, there's a question here, but I don't. And it's about Shelby. What would you do with Shelby now? I don't think we'd be able to sell him now because he's injured. So who's going to buy him when he's injured?
We have the choice, you know. And again, I think, look, there was very much a plan in place, I think, for Shelby to move on this summer, like, you know. But as I said, the Premier League absolutely stifled us with this commercial stuff, like, you know, and it kind of slowed down our transfer window a little bit, you know, whereas they probably would have rolled out for the rest of the season or until January with Shelby. With the injury now, when he comes back and stuff like that, look, I hope he's brought back in as part of the team, you know. So look, he's I think he's label, you know, when you got a label that you can't shake, like, you know, I think he's that, he has that, whereas, you know, people will tell you around the training ground and stuff like that he works his socks off, like, you know, he spends his summers building up for the season and stuff like that, like. So look, I think he's stuck with us through thick and thin, and if he stays, he stays. If he goes, he goes. I'm not really kind of bothered either way, like, you know. But look, he's at that age now where you're not going to get much from him anyway. It's just getting wages off the books, and I feel like that's probably the thing with Dubravka as well. Like, it's probably getting wages off the books more than anything.
Question from us here at Loaded. We're going to be on quite a bit between now and the transfer deadline. How you fixed, Sean, to pop on every now and again?
Oh, I'm ready to pop on for a few breaking news shows, definitely. You never know. Hopefully, you might get me on over the weekend, you know, because I'm getting very good information on stuff, on the one or two things there, like, you know, that they're close on, you know. And I think that's why one of these things is why Pedro's at being kind of kicked to the curb probably until January or the summer, you know. But I think if they don't get Pedro this summer, they'll go back from him again. And I'm kind of freaked out with missing out on him because I think he has an incredibly high ceiling. You know, and your show last week with those lads from Watford was unreal. You know, I've been incredibly busy over the last 4 weeks, as you can imagine, because I know I would try to get on here and I couldn't, you know, but that's probably the only podcast I've actually listened to over the time because I wanted to hear their take on him. But no, it was absolutely fantastic, to be fair.
Nice one. And just to answer Andrew's question, yes, we'll be doing deadline day shows. We don't know yet what the makeup of the shows, but yeah, you'll see us popping up. You know, the usual subscribe and you'll see it popping up. And as you've seen this week already, we've changed shows around and we've changed guests just because based on availability and then our own availability as well. But yeah, we're planning to go big between now and the end of the transfer deadline.
I was going to say, just to round out the show, Sean, I don't know whether you've seen Fabrizio Romano's tweet out the last 5 minutes, but what have you, could you say anything on it if you've seen it?
What is it? Tell us what it is, Richie.
Right, Fabrizio Romano said that West Ham have had made direct contact with Olympic Lyon for Lucas Paqueta tonight. Work in progress to reach an agreement between the clubs as personal terms are already fully agreed. West Ham are still prudent as dealing with Lyon is never easy, but now trying to get it done. Agents in London.
With Mairdad.
With me, that.
I was crying.
You know, but that shows you where the transfer window is at the moment. Like, you have Darmstadt there, who was probably, along with Ornstein, I suppose, they're probably the most reliable ones that we have kind of as in England and Ireland and stuff like that. Like, and they're saying that the Paqueta deal is absolutely dead. And then you have Fabrizio Romano saying that there's life in it, you know. So I've never seen so much confusion about a transfer window and targets and stuff like that. You know, it's absolutely crazy. Like, you have Romano saying that Pedro is absolutely done, and then you have other people saying no, it's not. You know, it's looked up everything with a pinch of salt. before the transfer window ends, to be fair. I know I was asked for a name there that's not in the press yet. I think that centre back from Wolfsburg, Maximin Lacroix, I think he's definitely one to watch. I think kind of going into next summer, I think he's going to be the top target to pair up with Sven Botman. Also, too, Fabian Schär has some start to the season, hasn't he?
Doing well.
You know, like a lot of talk about players. Like for me, he's probably been the best centre back the first 3 games. He's been absolutely incredible. The first 2 games, sorry. You know, he's been unreal, to be fair to the chapter. But yeah, well, before we end, my T-shirt. And to be fair to Dean, I know I probably shouldn't be advertising.
Good luck, Sean.
To be fair, look, like, I've been back and forth with Dean there for a long time, kind of over the takeover and transfers and stuff like that. Like, absolute gentleman, lovely lad. Like, he has a fantastic website if you haven't checked it out. There's an article in there from Mitch and stuff like that. Like, you know, so he gets people on to kind of write up articles on general Newcastle stuff. Like, you know, it's a fantastic website. Definitely give him a look, and I will stand over the quality of the t-shirts. They're fantastic. On the back of it, it's the Sir Bobby Robson quote.
Oh, cool. You should have music for this. Hang on.
So he has that on the back. I wore it going out there last Sunday for the Man City game, and the amount of people that asked me about it that never heard a quote before, and they were like, Jesus Christ, that's one of the best football quotes I've ever heard.
To be fair,
there it is, the music.
But it's that quote. Everybody was asking about the quote, like, you know, it's unreal, and it's only something that Newcastle fans really kind of big up on. But look, again, give his website a look.
To be fair, Dean is absolutely spot on. He did reach out to us. I think it was a similar title. He messaged you, Sean, as well, because he was wanting to know about plugging the tops, but it was just the same sort of time. We'd actually just set up a machine house as well, so it was like, is it a you know, and then obviously we had 1881, so it was all about, you know, is it a conflict of interest and sort of thing. So now we haven't got those on board. It might be something that we might reach back out to Dean and see whether he still wants to do something.
Yeah, and I told Dean that I'll write 1 or 2 pieces from there as well, kind of over the winter there, to put up on the website and stuff like that. But look, as I said, look, nice chap, absolute devout Newcastle fan. Like, no, took a lot of stick there because people said he was trying to be ITK because he was talking to me. But no, absolutely not. Like, he's just a Newcastle fan like the rest of us.
Yeah.
All right, I think we'll call it tonight, will we? Yeah, we'll call it tonight. We'll just give a shout out to the sponsors. Shout out to Shy Barnes and Simon, who's in the chat. And you can find the range of hats, t-shirts, hoodies, and you can also find the loaded t-shirts. And there's 2 different types. I don't have the one put in the system yet, but you can get the loaded t-shirt, and you can also get the away days t-shirt. And what's it say on the away days t-shirt, Pete?
We do love playing away. You'll be hearing that tomorrow night, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yes. That's what we'll be advertising in a second. And also, keep an eye out for the yellow one. The yellow one is now significant because it has Brazilian links and it has Swedish links. So keep an eye out for that one. That could be popular, especially going to the World Cup. So pins and prints as well. Check out what Dean has available there. And also, Marty.
Sorry, Daz. Surely we're going to get the pins and prints Trippier special against Man City. Surely he's working on that now.
I don't know. Surely. Richie, do you know?
I haven't seen it yet, but it wouldn't surprise us because he did have the Shaw one out done straight away, which I believe that Pete has got on the away day section in the setup. Darcy might need to transfer it across, mate.
Yeah. Is it here somewhere? Down the bottom? It could be anywhere. It's there somewhere.
It's in there somewhere with all those play links and stuff like that.
It's something to tune in for tomorrow. Also, we've the Machine House and the t-shirts and hoodies are available from Marty and the Machine House crew. So check that out as well. And yes, let's talk about what's coming tomorrow. Yes, we've got away days. Pete, take it away.
We're back with Wolves Fancast. Little Dan, like I said, anyone that's watched Battleground Europe, you'll know Little Dan. Very vocal, tells it as it is. Looking forward to having him on the show tomorrow. Don't be late, 7:30. Preview the game, looking at tactics, looking at what's going to be another big game for Newcastle, which maybe Alexander Isak might be starting. Who knows? We'll see. But definitely tune in to talk about all things away days.
You're going to that, Pete, aren't you?
I'll be there. I'll be there. The away end.
Wow.
Fingers crossed he signs tomorrow before 12 o'clock because I'd love to see him in the flesh. And wouldn't it be sweet is that Callum Wilson's out for a number of weeks, but Isaac comes in and is the man that wins us the game on Sunday. It'd be no better feeling for any Newcastle fan. So, yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Cool. And also then on Sunday we will be back with your reaction show, and we could be back with a player signing reaction show as well. Depending how things go, but we'll be definitely back for the reactions on the game. And then next week we have a few things in the pipeline we have to talk about. Hopefully those big names are still ready to rock. So keep an eye out for that. It's something to look forward to next week. I think because we have a big name ourselves today with Sean joining us. Thanks again, Sean, for joining us.
No about it.
That is it, I think. Am I missing anything, lads?
Sean, yeah, apart from the light bulb. Sean, a pleasure as always. Thank you for taking your time.
Cheers, Sean.
We always appreciate you coming on and
no problem, lads.
Talking Newcastle, and you know, been a really, really enjoyable chat tonight with the four of us. Just chewing the fat on all things football. Obviously, Sean, you're giving us your insight, but equally, we've just talked football, which is great.
And that's
it. Transfers and football, and this is what it's all about. This is why we love doing what we do on Loaded Mag NUFC, getting guests like Sean on to talk football with us.
Definitely.
Cheers, lads.
Cool.
Appreciate the invite as always.
Nice one. Right, we'll play out with Eddie. Eddie. How. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Tomorrow, probably. Bye-bye.
Yeah.